This is exactly where you want to be listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Alongside Tanner Hendrickson and Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. Alex out today. He'll be back in tomorrow. I begin my vacation tomorrow. This begins our 2-week quest of nobody being in the studio together.
Except for me and Bradford. We the boys.
We've got
to
it.
be around.
We've got it.
You'll be here. I will not be. And then Alex will not be. And then finally, we'll all be together as the Cardinals really
Home
ramp up with spring training. All right, so speaking of the Cardinals, big news today, T-Bone. Big news.
They finally get that right-handed bat?
There was only one place that we could possibly begin today's show. Normally, it's a really big day here in St. Louis, at least for us. The reason being, the PECOTA projections are out, ladies and gentlemen. And that means we can talk about whether they love or hate the Cardinals. Now, this year, I don't know how much people care. I think it's quite different. This team is not about the wins and the losses. It is about the fun we have along the way, but more likely the development that takes place along the way. T-Bone, you have not seen the PECOTA projections just yet. I told you, please do not look. I want to have this an organic conversation on the air. If you had to guess, how many wins do you think that the Cardinals are projected for? I'll give you some context clues.
Okay.
The Dodgers are projected for 105 wins. The Cardinals not quite there. Just go ahead and go out on a limb and say that's not where they're at. In the NL Central, the Cubs are projected to win the division with 90 wins. And then I'll give you one more piece of evidence. The Colorado Rockies are the lowest projected team in the National League with 60.
Okay.
So the Cardinals are somewhere between 60 and 105.
Not trying to
How many wins do you think the Cardinals are projected for from PECOTA this year?
I'm going to say PECOTA's typically lower on the Cardinals because I would say like 74, 75. So I'm going to go a little bit lower. I'll go 72 is my guess of what they have the Cardinals at.
Bradford, how many wins would you guess the PECOTA projections have for the St. Louis Cardinals?
Your boy is going to be a little more optimistic. Mid-70s, 76 to be precise.
The PECOTA projections for the 2026 St. Louis Cardinals are out. 66 wins.
Oh, ouch.
Tied for the second worst team in the National League.
Oh,
Dear Lord.
Yeah.
Man, that is the Nationals from last year for anybody who was wondering if that happened last year.
How many teams do you think they have projected in all of Major League Baseball to score fewer runs this year than your Cardinals?
Oh, so Colorado, I think, would be on that.
White Sox.
They might score more. They added some pieces there. Washington, maybe. I'll say 3 more teams. There's probably somebody I forgot. 3 more teams that scored less than the Cardinals. 0. Wow.
They have the Cardinals scoring 624 runs this year. No other team in Major League Baseball, according to these projections, which are, not without their flaws, are projected to score fewer than 660 runs this year. Again, the Cardinals at 624.
That's almost 4 runs a game. Let's hear it.
Whoo, baby. If
Almost.
that's right, it is going to be rough sledding here in St. Louis. Now, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen this year. It's possible. Like, the range of outcomes for this team. The peak is not all that high. I've said all along, like, hey, man, maybe they could get to 85. It's possible. I look at this division. The PECOTA projections have the Brewers at 80, the Pittsburgh Pirates at 79, and the Cincinnati Reds at 79. And then the Cardinals at 66. So there is a very
big
narrow gap between the Brewers, the Pirates, and the Reds, and maybe the Cardinals are a little better offensively than what they're projecting. And now suddenly they emerge in that mix with those other 3 teams, and it's just a 4-team race for second place in the division, which doesn't really matter. But, they end up in that lane because they're slightly better offensively than what these projections would suggest. Boy, would that be tough to watch, though. Do you think Cardinals fans would care? How do you think that would go over if this ends up being correct? If we get to the end of the year, we simulate through, they win 66 games, they have the worst offense in Major League Baseball, and pitching-wise, they're bad, but more like below average than horrific.
Yeah. I don't think Cardinals fans would be mad. I think there would probably be some, but I think that's the some that haven't come to reality of what this is right now, which is a rebuild. I think Cardinals fans wouldn't be frustrated by it. I don't think they would care because I think they look at this and they wanted this, right? They wanted to go in a different direction. Some wanted to enter into a rebuild, and they look at it more for the future, right? Long as in these PECOTA projections, we don't have this, but long as like a Wetherholt has like a decent season. And if the Cardinals lose 66 games, but you can look at Wetherholt and go, man, he finished 10% above league average, and he was a pretty good second baseman for the Cardinals. That'll make Cardinals fans happy. I don't think they will care what the win-loss record is for this year. I think they know they're in for a rough year of Cardinals baseball. And with this, you would have a projected top 5 pick. You know, in the lottery, you're going to have pretty good odds to get the number 1 overall selection. If that's the case, I think Cardinals fans wouldn't mind going 66 and 96 this season.
Oof. I don't care about the record, honestly. Whatever. It is what it is. It's a lost season. They're expecting to be bad. I care about that 624 runs scored. And the reason being, if that's how bad your offense is, and I mean, it's like a gap between the next worst offense and you. It's like the kind of gap that you exist typically for the Rockies on the pitching side of things, where it's everybody else and then there's the Rockies, who at least you can blame their ballpark for it. If the offense is this bad, it would suggest you did not get positive returns from Burleson, from Herrera, from Wetherholt, from Wynn, from Walker, from Scott. Like all of these guys you're counting on, they either take a step back or at a very minimum, do not take a step forward. And if that happens, you're not only in a rebuild, this core group of position players that you have right now, it failed. It failed spectacularly. And now you have to look at it and be like, all right, so what exactly do we have as our foundation? Who are the pieces that we view as being a part of this core for the next 3 years, much less the next 10? That would be, to me, the concern with a season like this. I don't really care what the record is. That's not something I'm going to be looking at and saying, like, that's the indicator on whether or not this season is a success or a failure. It's much more about the process and who is able to become a part of this core. And if you're by far the worst offense in Major League Baseball, it will indicate that that did not go in your favor whatsoever. That would lead for me to be very concerned once we get to the end of the regular season.
Yeah, and this is why I have said all along that I think this is going to take longer than some people may expect, because it wouldn't shock me if this is what the offense is. And that's with saying like Burleson and Herrera just kind of stay as they are. I don't know if there's much more of a next level to Burleson's game. Herrera is the one that I would argue there's a decent chance that he could take another step. But outside of those two guys, who is it that we're hoping for to make that big step outside of JJ Wetherholt, who's a newcomer? Like, I don't know how much more is in the tank for a Mason Wynn. I think he can be better than what he was. He was compromised last year. Outside of that, who are we looking at? Like, Nootbaar maybe as a bounce-back candidate. I just don't see a high ceiling on this offense. And that's why, like, what's the core going to look like moving forward if this were to occur? I think they don't know. I think it's JJ Wetherholt, and then they have to decide on Ivan Herrera, Alec Burleson, and those would be the two guys. Unless Walker becomes a big surprise or Gorman becomes a big surprise, I don't see their foundation for their offense outside of JJ Wetherholt. And it's why when we would have conversations on the Redbird Report, I'd have a tough time putting Burleson or Herrera in the conversation of who belongs in the core right now, because I don't know. And I think it's very possible that this kind of offensive production will be there this year because they don't hit for a ton of power, right? And that's that's the name of the game of baseball now today is, do you slug? And the Cardinals are not going to be a team that slugs. They're going to have to manufacture runs, and good luck living on that this year.
Well endowed on the text line. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. They say our offense will be better than our pitching this season. I think that's the hope. That's my expectation. And the thing that I really dislike about these projections, and this is all just us kind of talking about, hey, in this scenario, what would that look like for the Cardinals? The thing that I have a fear of is, if you look at this rotation and say, hey, they stink, they were terrible, whatever, you move on from all of them. That's fine. Liberatore, you trade in the offseason. Palante, you decide not to tender next year. McGreevy, maybe he's a 5 and there's nothing more there. And that's cool. Like, that's fine. That's kind of what I'm expecting going in. Leahy, maybe it fails. Maybe he's not a starting pitcher. He is somebody that you just expect to be a reliever long term. Dustin May, hey, it's a 1-year deal. You tried it. It failed. You move on. It's not the end of the world if the pitching is bad. You've got guys coming through your system that you're expecting to be part of that rotation. On the position player side of thing, those reinforcements aren't coming to the same degree. You've got a few guys, like Joshua Baez, maybe he becomes somebody that you can build around. Rainiel Rodriguez, really high upside position player. Maybe Chase Davis eventually will hit somewhere. Maybe Ty Pete, 3 to 4 years down the road, becomes an important piece of what you're doing in the outfield. These are all possibilities. I could name 10 to 15 pitchers in your minor league system that could be possibilities. I can name like 5 on the position player side of things. So if this core position player group fails, you're kind of screwed. If this core of the pitching fails, I'm not really all that concerned about it. It's very much in play that either of those two things happened. But if I had to set it in stone today, hey, one of these two pieces of the team, construction-wise, is going to fail this year. Which one is more problematic long-term if they fail? It is very clearly to me the position player side of things because of what you have coming from below.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's why we talked about this on, I think, the last episode of the Redbird Report. They hadn't targeted any position players, really. All the main pieces they got in return was on the pitching side. When you look at all the trades that they pulled off this offseason, from Senja to Fitz to Dobbins, they were all the headliners of it. Now, there were position players that were in it, but those were more lottery tickets. Like Pete, for example. He's got a good tool and power, but he would be defined as a lottery ticket when you're looking at what they got in return for that. I agree with what you said there. If the position players are the ones that fail, it looks like it's going to be a lot longer. Now, you can kind of retool that position group a lot easier, I think, on the fly than you can the pitching side. Because position players, like you get them from college. Look at JJ Wetherholt. He's going to be here 2 years after he got drafted. With your high pick, you might be able to do that. But yeah, you don't really have a lot of reinforcements that are coming. The fear that I would have with this rebuild or retool would be the thing that we talked about over a decade of the John Mozeliak era was one time there would be they're developing all this pitching, and then they didn't really have the development of the position players. And then the pendulum would swing. All right, now they've got the position players, and now there's no pitching. That would be my fear is if this position group doesn't work out for the Cardinals, they're going to start that pendulum swing based on how much they focused on upgrading the pitching over the last really 2 off seasons while Chaim Bloom has been here.
Alongside Tanner Hendrickson and Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. In about 15 minutes, how do the Blues compare to their offensive output at this point a year ago, going into that Four Nations break? Looking at that compared to this Olympic break. We'll get into that coming up in 15 minutes. If you guys want to get involved in the show, the places to do so are 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. You can always check us out over on the YouTube page at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. That is where the Walrus King, Big Illusion, Chris, Jeremy, Bill, all hanging out right now over in the Graveyard Chat on YouTube. Again, youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Coming up next, I feel like we have had a lot of conversations this year about Sam Darnold, the path that he took to get to where he is today, where he was ultimately one of the most important players for a Super Bowl winning team. Is there going to be a next Sam Darnold, or is he one of one? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Miss the Blues game? Want to hear the highlights? Need player reaction? Want more analysis and opinion? It's all here on Curbside, your next day postgame podcast with a voice of the St. Louis Blues, Chris Kerber. Catch new episodes of Curbside every morning after every Blues game on 101ESPN.com or on the 101 mobile app.
Curbside is presented by Blue Note Roofing. Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for a free inspection. And by Bellman Automotive for the best price on a new Buick, GMC, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, or a used vehicle. Shop Bellman and Troy online and at Bellman.com. You can't do better than Bellman.
101 ESPN has your shot to score a 4-pack of passes to the St. Louis Boat and Fishing Show, taking place Friday, February 20th through Sunday, February 22nd at the America Center. It's a great time for the whole family, including the Bobbers in a Boat giveaway, where you can guess the number of bobbers for your chance to win a huge prize. Find all the info and your chance to win free passes for the St. Louis Boat and Fishing Show, February 20th through the 22nd, right now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 app. They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Sam Darnold was mostly terrible the first 6 years of his NFL career. We're talking about a former top 3 overall selection by the New York Jets. In his first 43 career starts, T-Bone, he was 17 and 26.
Oh.
In that stretch, he had thrown 46 touchdowns and 41 interceptions. It really just was not good. His QBR, which is on a scale of 0 to 100.
This had to be awful.
It was 45.
Oh.
His quarterback rating, if you want to be the traditional metric guy, was 78. That's a max of like 158.
This is not good.
So he was half of that. Really, really not good. 100 is really good. 90 is like average game. Anything below that, really not good. He was at 78. He was horrible. And then suddenly, at the age of 27, he went to the Minnesota Vikings, started 17 games, went 14-3, got them to the playoffs. We know how that went. It was a disaster. And the Vikings decide to move on and go to JJ McCarthy. This season, Darnold goes to Seattle once again, wins 14 games, earns his team the bye in the NFC playoffs, gets to and wins the Super Bowl, and plays pretty well in the Super Bowl, and now will forever be remembered as a Super Bowl champion. This is the kind of redemption arc you do not often see in the NFL, but it does kind of feel like we're seeing it more often lately. You saw this with Baker Mayfield. I think that was slightly different. Baker was decent early on in his Cleveland Browns career, and then it all fell apart. Yeah. Then he went through some injuries, had the weird year where he was with like Carolina, had that cup of coffee with the Rams, ultimately ended up with Tampa Bay, and it went well for him down there. Not to the same degree as Darnold, but well nonetheless. I think what we typically see in the NFL is it's very much a copycat league. And we see teams try to emulate the build of the team that won the Super Bowl. A lot of teams have tried to do what the Eagles did, where they say, hey, we're going to go get these crazy defensive linemen. We're going to build our defensive line up, and that'll be how we build the way that the Eagles did a year ago, right? This offseason, I think you could see something where teams say, you know what, we don't need a superstar level quarterback. We just got to build around it. And we can even get our quarterback from elsewhere. Maybe he failed somewhere else. It won't fail with us, though, because look at what Sam Darnold was capable of doing this year once he was put into a good situation. Over on ESPN.com, they put together a list of some of the quarterbacks that could be on the move this offseason. That list includes Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa, Malik Willis, Kirk Cousins, Will Levis, Davis Mills, Anthony Richardson, etc. T-Bone, is Sam Darnold a one-of-one situation, or do you think one of those quarterbacks that I just mentioned has a chance to become the next Sam Darnold?
I would lean on Sam Darnold as one of one. I don't know that a guy like Tua, who you had mentioned there, like Tua's a guy that has looked good, but I don't know what to make of his situation, right? And I don't think the most important part for Tua, I don't know that you can trust his health. He's one that I don't really trust when it comes to his health because of the concussions issues that he's had to deal with in the past. And on top of that, like, he ran a weird system with Mike McDaniel to where I don't know really what to make of it. Was Tua that good in the system, or did the system make Tua? And then Kyler would be the one that I would highlight as like maybe the best chance at this. I've never been that big of a Kyler Murray fan. You know, I think he's a guy that even in his best year with the Arizona Cardinals was fine. 10 interceptions, 24 touchdowns, and 14 games started. But he was also a big reason why they were knocked out in the playoffs. He wasn't very good in the playoff for them against the LA Rams. He's a guy that don't know that I trust. And there's the clause in his contract about playing Call of Duty. There's serious questions about the makeup of him as a quarterback. There was never those concerns with Sam Darnold. So I don't see that with Kyler. There was never really those concerns with Baker Mayfield either. Baker Mayfield was always known as a tough guy. I don't see that guy out there. And like all the other ones, like Anthony Richardson, Malik Willis, I think those guys are backups at best. I don't think they can be guys that can start. And for Willis, too, like, I remember his numbers being better in my head, and then I went back and looked at him and go, he didn't throw a lot, really. Green Bay just said he's going to be a running quarterback, and that's screams Justin Fields is what I think he can be at best as a starter. So I don't see a guy that's out there on the market that will be the next Sam Darnold.
Never in my wildest dreams a few months ago did I think, I'm going to utter the sentence, Sam Darnold is one of one. But when you pit him up against this class of signal callers to come, I think you have to basically buy into that premise. Yeah. I'll be honest, I'll kind of go against the grain here a little bit. And Tanner, as opposed to what you brought there to the table, if I'm identifying any one of these guys and saying, at the very least, I want to see more. I'm willing to invest. I want to see what this guy does with a bigger bite of that apple. It's actually going to be Malik Willis, okay? Granted, I know he has 6 starts to his name in 4 years in the league after being that third-round draft selection. But I do think what you saw in his latest stint of fill-in assignments, if you will, for Jordan Love, your boy from Green Bay, he's not going anywhere, BK. So Malik Willis, he's heading out of town. He's heading away from Lambeau. Did he basically decimate or kind of shred the likes of some pretty pedestrian pass defenses in Chicago, in Baltimore a year ago? Yes, he did. But his ability to also execute off-schedule throws, to get outside of the pocket, to do a little bit from that improvisational standpoint, I think there is still upside to be untapped there, and I'd like to see what he could do.
Somebody on the text line brings up the name that I was going to bring up from the 562. BK, the redemption quarterback candidate is Mac Jones. He's not a free agent this offseason. He'd have to be traded for, and I don't know that the 49ers are going to do it because they know Brock Purdy has some serious health questions long term. Mac looked good over the last 2 years when he was starting, like legitimately good. And he's still at least got a decent amount of upside, and he's young enough. And there's enough question about the situation that he was in New England where, hey, man, I saw him leave, and I watched the guy this year that was second in the MVP candidate voting. That guy sucked last year in the same kind of a situation that Mac Jones was in New England. Drake May couldn't do a whole lot better. And then this year, they surrounded him with a better supporting cast. They got him better coaching, and suddenly it looked much better. So I'm not giving up on Mac Jones just yet. I don't know that he's going to be great. But could he be a caretaker for a team and give you something similar to what Baker is down in Tampa or Darnold at times has been in Seattle? I could see something like that. The Kyler thing is interesting to me because he's not that young, man. He is a month younger than Sam Darnold is, like right now.
Ooh.
So Darnold had his career renaissance when he was 27. Kyler Murray today is already going to be 28 next year, or 29 next year,
29.
excuse me. He's not like some young kid at this point in his career, so I can't necessarily expect the same out of him just in the career trajectory. I don't see it. I don't see it with Kyler Murray, and you said the word that I would use, the makeup for him. Man, so much about football is about like the intangibles, especially at that position. How do you see the field? How do you communicate with your teammates? Do they buy into you as a leader? Are they willing to go out there and like lay their body on the line because they believe in what you're selling?
Yeah.
That stuff really matters. It matters in hockey for a coach. It matters in the NFL for a quarterback and a coach combination. I don't know that stuff exists for Kyler Murray. I kind of think it does with Mac Jones. I think guys really like him. They like playing with him. And when he's been in there, man, he's played well lately. So I would say Mac Jones, as strange as this is, because I don't think he's more talented than Kyler, I think Mac Jones is more likely to have that Sam Darnold career arc than Kyler Murray is.
Yeah, I agree with that statement, and it's maybe no surprise since I said he was going to be the first one to win a Super Bowl out of his draft class. But I think for Mac Jones, he's going to be in San Fran next year because if you're San Francisco, it makes no sense to trade him because of the health risk with Brock Purdy. He's the one that I would bet on for next year. When we get to this conversation next season after the Super Bowl, now maybe Mahomes wins the Super Bowl again, and we're not talking about can anybody be the next Sam Darnold, but I think he's the one that I would bet on as well. The other thing with Kyler, too, is, and I didn't mention this earlier, but I brought up his makeup. He's tiny, man. Mm-hmm. He's only 5'10", and he's like a little water bug out there. He has to get outside the pocket to make a lot of plays. We've seen this now with Bryce Young, and you can name so many other quarterbacks that are on the smaller side of things. It is so hard for them to have success. The guy that everybody points to is Drew Brees. Well, there's only been one Drew Brees since Drew Brees. All these other smaller quarterbacks have had a very difficult time. That's another reason why I wouldn't bet on Kyler Murray. He just doesn't have the size that you're looking for at that quarterback position.
Alongside Tanner and Bradford on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. We'll get to questions and answers coming up in 15 minutes. But next, how do the Blues compare at this point in their season to where they were at this point a year ago? We'll talk about it next here on 101 ESPN.
This Friday morning, 101 ESPN invites you to participate in the 26th annual Hardee's Rise and Shine fundraiser. Stop by any participating Hardee's in the bi-state area this Friday morning and grab a sausage biscuit or egg biscuit for the special price of just $1. 100% of the proceeds of all funds collected will help heat up St. Louis, supporting people in need in both Missouri and Illinois. Help heat up the St. Louis region this Friday morning at any participating Hardee's. Find more at 101ESPN.com. Start your day with the morning after on 101 ESPN. Get in the know first on everything St. Louis sports with Tim McKernan, Doug Vaughn, and Martin Kilcoy. Listen to TMA weekday mornings from 7 to 11 a.m. on 101 ESPN. The morning after is presented by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Illini resume fight after road setback. Good morning, I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Tonight, number 8 Illinois returns to Champaign, hosting Big Ten rival Wisconsin. Brad Underwood's squad stumbled on Saturday against Michigan State, 85-82 in overtime. The Illini currently sit at 20-4. 18th ranked SLU, meanwhile, remaining idle until this weekend showdown with Loyola Chicago. Mizzou visits daunting Aggieland tomorrow, but TMA guest Gabe DeArmond does see a tournament path for MU.
I don't love the matchup on Wednesday night in College Station. I would be surprised if Missouri wins that. I don't think they go to Fayetteville and win, but Vanderbilt at home, Tennessee at home. Why should Missouri, even Arkansas at home, why should Missouri not think it has a pretty good shot to win those games?
Your Sports Center update has been powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Alongside T-Bone and Bradford on BK, some news in Major League Baseball. A reminder that this time of the year, man, it's as much about the stories you don't want to see as it is the stories that you do. Spencer Schwellenbach is expected to potentially be placed on the 60-day IL, pitcher for the Atlanta Braves. They already had no pitching. Now they're potentially going to lose one of their best starters. It ain't great down there in Atlanta, Bob. They have been the team that over the last 5 years, I would say, has underperformed relative to expectations, maybe more so than anybody else. They were supposed to be in the prime of this era of Braves baseball. And instead, it's just been like injury after injury after injury after injury. They've got this core locked up and they're just stuck. So that's the news in Major League Baseball. All right, NHL side of things. The Blues are in their break. This time last year, it was Camp Monty. They get to send some of their players out to the Four Nation face-off. Binnington found his game. The 2-week break allowed them to get things figured out and ironed out. And after that, they go on this historic run. It was unbelievable. I'm not expecting any of that from the Blues this year. But I do think it allows us to take a deep breath and revisit where we are right now compared to where we were a year ago. And I also think after looking at some of these numbers, T-Bone, it serves as a reminder on why there was probably a little more optimism on that team than there is this team. So I went back to find out I would say the biggest issue this year is two big ones. They allow too many goals, they don't score enough of them. But if I was to pinpoint one of them that is most frustrating for me, it's the lack of goal scoring ability that they seem to have. Their leading scorer this season is Jake Neighbors with 14 goals. He is the only player currently on the roster projected to score 20. Not more than 20, 20. They do not have a player currently on the roster projected to score more than 20 goals based upon their current pace. At this time a year ago, Kyra had 23. I mean, that's all you have to say. They had a guy that had more than 20 a year ago at this point of the season when they got to the Four Nations face-off break. They already weren't good enough, but they had somebody with 23. And this year, they don't have a single player projected to score more than 20 goals. So that in and of itself speaks to the problem that they have. But I wanted to go through this because Kyra at this point had 23. This year, he has 13 at basically the exact same point in the season. It was 56 games this point last year versus 57 this year. Holloway had 16 goals at this point in the season. This year, 8. Now, a lot of that's due to injury, but that's part of it.
Yeah.
Thomas was at 13 this year. He's at 11. Then he went on that crazy pace, led the NHL in points after the Four Nations face-off last year, 40 points in 26 games. Jake Neighbors is the exact same guy. He's the least of your problems. 13 goals at this point last year, 14 this year. Parayko had 12 goals at this point last year. He has 1 so far this year. But it basically just flipped with Justin Falk. This point a year ago, Justin Falk had 2 goals. Now he has 11. So your production from the blue line, it was coming from Parayko last year. This year it's Falk. They just flipped. Whatever. That's fine. Braden Shen, same. 11 goals last year, 12 this year. Same thing for Booch. 11 goals last year, 12 this year. And then you look at your depth scoring. Saad and Bolduc, 7 and 6 goals respectively. This year it's Snuggie and Dvorsky, 10 and 9. So you're fine. The problem for the Blues, this is no surprise. We've all known this inherently, but when you see it put in black and white, I think it just is a solid reminder. Your top dudes haven't been your top dudes this year. You needed Dylan Holloway not just to be what he was last year, but maybe even to take a step. You needed Jordan Kyrou to be what he was last year and then potentially take a step. And instead, they have combined for 21 goals at this point in the season when last year Kyrou had 23. There you go. There's your difference. If you just put them back on the pace that they were a year ago, you've got 16 more goals, 17 more goals as a team. That leads to like 5 more wins.
Yeah.
And now instead of us talking about them being the second worst team in the NHL, we're talking about them being a fringe playoff team.
And there's debate between whether to buy or add probably at the deadline.
And that's with terrible goaltending.
Yeah.
That's with a defense that hasn't been good enough. All of these other issues, they still exist. And we might still be talking about what the future holds for this team. But if you simply won 4 or 5 more games, you're talking about being at like 59 points. That's where Nashville's at. They're 5 points behind Utah. Talking about a potential playoff spot still. We could at least convince ourselves. Instead, they're stuck. And now they're the second worst team in the NHL.
Yeah. It's surprising. And with all of that being said, like this would be the one area that I thought coming into the year, you could really circle and say that maybe it's not going to have that elite goal scorer, but I felt pretty confident in their depth of scoring, right? Especially because it all really clicked together last year towards the end. If you would have told me they would have had some question marks on defense, I could have listened to that because they were going to go with Tucker and Mailloux in that third pairing role, which I could have seen being a bit of a problem for them. If you would have told me their goaltending would have been this inconsistent, that would have been a big surprise to me as well. But the lack of offense has really been shocking because I thought that it had all been figured out. We had seen this from them, and then the post-Camp Monty, they broke out and everything clicked together. And I thought, okay, maybe it was just the Drew Bannister effect, right? Maybe I was wrong when I was talking last year about maybe you just keep Drew Bannister. Maybe that was what the problem was. And I thought it would only be better this time around because you get a full training camp with Jim Montgomery. He gets a chance to implement more of everything that he wants to do. There were no question marks about what the lineup was going to look like outside maybe what your configurations were. There were no major question marks. And now your best dudes just didn't show up to start the season. Kyrou has not been good. Holloway's not been good, and part of that is due to injury, but that is a big part of some of the question marks around him when he was acquired by the St. Louis Blues. He dealt with injuries when he was in Edmonton as well. It goes to show you why this build that Doug Armstrong envisioned has completely failed this season and why they're going to be sellers at this year's trade deadline.
So I guess the question then would be, how many of these guys can you realistically expect to get it back on track? Because sometimes it happens where it's a weird year. Guys underperform. Could be injury related for somebody like Dylan Holloway. Could just be situation. Could be whatever the case may be. Maybe it's something off of the ice that we know nothing about. That's just leading to their head not being totally in it. I'm not speculating, truly. Weird stuff happens in hockey, in baseball, all over the board. And then sometimes the next year they come back and it's like, whoa, okay, back to what they were a year ago. And it's as if 2025 never happened. When I look at the Blues right now, like Jake Neighbors is exactly what I expected him to be.
Agreed.
50-point producer-ish, somewhere in that range, 20 to 25 goals. He's pretty much what I thought. Pavel Buchnevich, at this point in his career, I think this is kind of who he is. 20-goal scorer, 40 to 50-point producer, and you live with it. Braden Shen, same thing. 20-goal scorer, 40 to 50 points, you move forward. Now, I would say Thomas has been a bit disappointing. I think a lot of that, though, is because you don't have anybody projected to score more than 20 goals. That plays into it for sure. Is there anybody else that you look at, T-Bone, other than maybe Jordan Kyrou and Dylan Holloway and say, hey, they should have been producing more than this. And I expect them in the future to produce more than what they have. They're capable of doing more than this.
No, I mean, Holloway, Thomas, Kyrou would be the 3 that I would circle as those guys that I think can really have those bounce back years that you're talking about that you should be expecting more from. I'm with you. I've felt that this is kind of who Booch is now at this point in his career. Shen, I don't think it's realistic to expect any more on. He's on the back end of the aging curve. And Snugger and Dvorsky, those are more of taking the next step candidates than anything else. And I think for them being in their rookie campaigns, this is kind of what I expected from them as well. I don't think there's anybody on this roster that I look at and say, I really expected more from him. Even Parayko, for example, looking at his goal production from a season ago. odds are he wasn't going to repeat that. And it's a nice benefit that Falk kind of helped offset that. I wouldn't bet on Falk repeating this next year. It's why you need to cash in on him at the trade deadline. Defensemen, especially like Parayko and Falk, who I think are better known for their defense than their offensive scoring touch, it's no surprise that his numbers came back down to earth. I am not shocked by that at all. So, no, there's nobody outside of Thomas, Kyrou, and Holloway that I would circle as they should be able to bounce back from this.
And this is why they need to go out there and add more talent to the wing.
Yep.
This is why when you look at where they're drafting, it might ultimately be the best thing for them long term to have gone through this. It's pain. It sucks. It's not enjoyable to watch. And we've still got, 25 more games of it coming out after the Olympic break. But they just are so desperately in need of that game-breaking talent that you can write it in pen every year, 30-plus goals. You know exactly where they're coming from, and that guy's going to produce. I can put him on a top line with Robert Thomas or whoever the top line center is at the time, and they're going to produce for that player. That's what they're lacking right now. Can Snuggie be that 3, 4, 5 years down the road? Maybe. It's possible. I wouldn't count on it, but it's possible. And if he is, now you've got an overqualified second line winger or a guy that can be the second winger for that top line center. Can you expect 25-plus goals out of Dalibor Dvorsky? I'm not personally there. Could he get there? Sure. And if so, great. You've got an overqualified second line center. This is what you need in order to become a championship contending team. But right now, they're just missing so many of the ingredients, and maybe they're missing the most important piece of what championship contenders have. They don't have that true go-to guy as a goal scorer. It's just like what we talk about with the Cardinals, where they're missing that 30 home run, 100 RBI guy. You don't have to make this more complicated than it is. The Blues are missing somebody that can produce more than 30 goals every season of their NHL career. Yep. That's what they're lacking right now, that almost every contender across the NHL currently boasts. Coming up next, questions and answers here on 101 ESPN.
Friday night, it's the Rising Stars game. Tip off at 8. Your home for the NBA is 101 ESPN. to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. You've got questions, we may have the answers. Maybe. It's BK and Ferrario's Questions and Answers on 101 ESPN.
All right, let's get into it. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and get them in right now on the Air Comfort Service text line. From the 314, do you guys think the Cardinals could look to trade Nootbaar early on if he proves to be healthy and effective? I don't think it would really make a whole lot of sense to trade him early. I think you're hoping to bank on a healthy and productive season and then trade him as you get closer to the deadline. But if somebody has like their Willy Adames kind of situation where they're willing to offer you something you can't refuse, then sure. I'm not opposed to doing anything like that. I just don't think it's likely.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Would you be open to it? Yeah, I'd be open to it. If he bounces back, proves his value, and someone wants to blow my socks away before we get to the deadline, absolutely. But odds are you probably have to wait till the deadline. We see most teams operated like Mo did, right? Where they wait till about July till they start to have those conversations. And honestly, it's post All-Star break because they get all tied up into the draft. I think if we're going to be talking about a Nootbaar trade, it's going to be post All-Star break before those conversations really take off.
From the 314, guys, generally, MLB teams that win around 65 to 70 games take another 2 to 3 years to compete. How long do you think the Cardinals' rebuild will be? It depends. If they end up going 66 and 96 this year, as the PECOTA projections have them, I mean, that, to go back to what my opinion was in the open, it suggests that your position players failed. Mm-hmm. And if your position players fail, you're talking about a 3-year rebuild. But if they're better than what PECOTA is projecting, and the offense looks capable, and you get some positive returns from Wetherholt and Herrera, Burleson, etc., I think you could be back to being competitive next year and contending in 2028.
Yeah, and I lean more on the rebuilds take time, longer than that. I think it's 3 to 5 years that we're talking about for the Cardinals, and especially that will be the case if the offense does what PECOTA says it's going to. Then they have to almost reset the position player side almost completely outside of 1 or 2 positions.
From the 314, guys, I think we're all on board at this point for the Blues to continue to tank this year. Are you hoping for the Cardinals to get a top draft pick, or are you hoping they have the best record possible? It's tough, man. I just hope for the young players to perform well, and a lot of the time, if you get those good performances, you're going to be better than expected. I'm not overly concerned about their draft position. If they end up winning 80 games next year, and it's because a lot of these young guys performed at a high level, that's great. So, and that would mean you're picking, 12th to 15th. I don't think that's the worst thing. Yeah, that's fine.
I'll be doing what I've been doing the last couple weeks with the Blues, hoping I look at a baseball game and go, boy, Mason went another 2 for 4 game. That was really good. JJ Wetherholt 3 for 4. Oh, we hit a Oppo Taco the other way. Burley with another good performance. And then I go, the pitching wasn't very good tonight. And they lost the baseball game because I do think they could use another high-end draft pick to really help them in this rebuild. So I'll kind of be rooting for the losses, but with the caveat of, I really need to see some of the young guys still play well in that process.
From Table Rock Lake Monster, which player do you believe provides the biggest surprise for the Cardinals this season? I really think Fermin could be more impactful than most would like to believe. I'll go JC. I think a lot of people just view JC as not being a good player at the major league level.
That's me.
He is 23 years old. He showed some real signs last year, and I think he's somebody that could hit like 275. Low on base. I don't think he's ever going to walk very much. I don't know that he's going to hit for a whole lot of power at the major league level, but 10 to 15 home runs, 270 hitter, decent infield defensively, maybe a guy that can kick out to the outfield. So basically, I think JC could be what this texter is probably projecting for Jose Fermin.
Yeah. Position player wise, it's hard for me to look at someone that I would think, like Scott's one that I'm kind of intrigued by, but I don't know what his ceiling is. I'm not even sure his ceiling is a league average hitter, if I'm being honest. I think best case scenario, he's 10% below league average and is a Gold Glove caliber defender in center field. The one that I'm fascinated by is more on the pitching side, and Kyle Leahy. I'm fascinated to see what this looks like with the experiment of trying to have him as a starter, because he was very good last season. I know the advanced metrics, a lot of them don't really kind of support that, but he throws everything but the kitchen sink up there at the plate. And I think he could have a good mix. And after getting a year under his belt as a reliever, I think he's a guy that could put together kind of what first half Matthew Liberatore looked like, where he ends up being very good. We have that conversation of him being like a 3-4 starter for the Cardinals in the long run with his stuff.
I've got another one for you from Jeff Jones on Twitter. Packy Naughton says he's fully healthy and his step up for regular spring training program is good to go for the first time since 23. Don't count on him as a candidate for that second lefty slot in the bullpen. Packy Naughton was really good the last time that we saw him fully healthy, like legitimately a good bullpen arm. If he is actually healthy and this is real, he's a guy that I think could maybe surprise in that bullpen. It's a small role. It's not a huge deal, but he could be good for you. He could help you.
He's
so
very
I'll go
good
Packy Naughton.
as a left-handed specialist. He got his numbers got inflated because of the 3-batter rule, where he'd have to face a couple righties in his stints. But if you look at his numbers from the year he was healthy, he was fantastic against lefties as a left-handed specialist.
From the 636 BK, if the Chiefs focus on wide receiver with the number 9 overall pick in the draft, which one of them would you prefer if they're all still available? They're so different. I'm between Mekhi Lemon. So the 3 wide receivers that are potentially going to be worthy of that pick: Carnell Tate from Ohio State, Mekhi Lemon from USC. T-Bone, you got to see him against Illinois this past year.
He's a stud.
He's good. He's small, though. And Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, who's oft injured, but wildly talented when available. Out of those 3, I would lean toward either Lemon or Carnell Tate. And given what the Chiefs need in their receiver room, I think I would probably go Carnell Tate. He's a bigger body. He is more of the traditional, like, go in on a post route, go in on a go route, go up and get it. Wins with physicality, wins with the ability to have contested catches. That's what the Chiefs are really missing right now. So I'd go with him, but Mekhi Lemon's really fun, man.
Yeah, I would probably agree with you, because I don't think they need a smaller statue guy, so it probably would be Tate for me. Lemon, I think, is going to be the best receiver out of this draft class. And maybe that's biased, because every time I watch him, he's the kind of guy, every time I watch him, I go, oh my God, he had like 120 yards and nobody could cover him. I think he's a special player, but I think you're right. I don't know that he really matches up well with what KC needs with their wide receiver room.
Man, I'd be cool with it. Just get a guy that's really good. That's what they need with a number 9 overall pick. If that's a defensive end, a wide receiver, hell, even if they take Jeremiah Love, whatever. Just get somebody that comes in and immediately has a huge impact on the roster. They're in desperate need of an infusion of young, high-level talent. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll play a game of Bet It or Forget It. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are betting it or forgetting it here on 101 ESPN. But coming up next here on 101 ESPN, I saw somebody on the text line talking about this. Are the Cardinals willing to commit to a veteran getting extended playing time as that right-handed bat? We'll tell you next here on 101 ESPN.
Join Alex Ferrario and Michelob Ultra this Saturday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. at Ballpark Village FanDuel Sports Live. Cheer on Team USA during the Winter Games and sign up to win an autographed USA men's hockey jersey. Plus, brand ambassadors will be sampling Michelob Ultra, giving away other Team USA items, and we'll have awesome Michelob Ultra specials available. It's all happening this Saturday inside Ballpark Village. Get all the details at 101ESPN.com. WXOS, WXOS HD1 East St. Louis. 101 ESPN is driven by Auto Centers Nissan, home of the lifetime warranty and 30-day return. This is exactly where you want to be, listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
You like saying Victor Scott practicing his bunting today at spring training, T-Bone?
Man, I love seeing that, especially for a guy like Victor Scott who could really use it to add to his toolkit.
Derek Gould tweeting out a video just a little bit ago. 20 full seconds of Victor Scott practicing his bunting. By the way, I'll go ahead and say this. Derek Gould, I believe, is going to be joining us regularly throughout the Cardinals baseball season. So looking forward to that. If you want to follow him for his spring training reports, you can do so on Twitter at @DGould. And, of course, follow him in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. We are now without anybody covering the team from The Athletic. MLB.com cut their Cardinals beat writer with John Denton, who we absolutely loved being able to get to know over the last few years, have him on the show regularly. Unfortunately, with Katie leaving and then John Denton not being a part of the Cardinals beat core anymore. Now it's basically just down to, on a daily basis, Derek Gould and Jeff Jones. So we are excited for our show to be able to have potentially one of the two guys that's around the team on a day-to-day basis, with Derek Gould joining us regularly throughout the Cardinals season. T-Bone, on the Cardinals, they've talked all offseason about adding a right-handed bat. It's the thing I laugh every Sunday morning when you hear Chaim Bloom on with KMOX. One of the questions is, so where are you at with the right-handed bat? And this past weekend, he was asked about it once again, and he said, hey, listen, like, we're still working. I know it sounds like a broken record, but we're still trying. And there is one name that has since come up. It's interesting to me because he was once a very good player, and we talked about him in the offseason as a potential trade acquisition in an Arenado deal. It's Nick Castellanos. The Phillies outfielder, they really want to find a new home for him, man. They're speaking publicly about how they would like to get him off of their roster. But they've got to find somebody that'll take some amount of the money. Nick Castellanos was not good last year. He hit .250, hit 17 home runs, and by the traditional metrics, that sounds fine. But he doesn't walk, so he doesn't get on base at a high clip, and he doesn't hit for enough pop to really make up for the lack of everything else that he brings to the table. He's also terrible defensively and is one of the worst base runners in Major League Baseball. So the only value that he provides is with his bat, and he hasn't really been a plus hitter in 3 years.
Yeah.
And really just 1 out of the last 4 years has he been a productive Major League hitter. So that's what you would be potentially betting on if you made a move like this. He's 33 years old, so it's not as if he's 50. T-Bone, would this be something that if you were in Chaim Bloom's shoes, you would consider, where you'd trade a lottery ticket prospect and the Phillies eat most of Nick Castellanos' deal, and you add him as your right-handed bat for the Cardinals?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it, because when you're looking to add this right-handed bat, really what they're doing, I believe, is adding someone that they can trade at the deadline and see if they can get some value for him when we get to the trade deadline. And I think there's too many risks with Nick Castellanos to try and do that. One, I'm not sure that his bat's going to get any better from where it was last year, because he's seriously starting to lose some of that pop. And when he does, as you mentioned, he doesn't get on base. So he's really going to carry a low OPS like he did last year, to where he's going to potentially be a below average hitter. The other thing, too, is he brings no value if not for his bat. He's not good defensively, as you had mentioned. So if I'm another team and I am thinking of this like I think the Cardinals are, which is how do we get someone in here to be a right-handed bat that helps us out for the early portion of the season that we can then flip at the trade deadline, I don't know that he's a guy that I would be willing to bet on because of that. Because if he doesn't bounce back with his bat, who's trading for a rental right-handed DH bat that doesn't hit and doesn't play defense? Nobody. So sure, it is just a lottery ticket prospect, so it wouldn't be like the end of the world. It's just taking a flyer on a guy and hoping he bounces back. But I don't think he can bounce back. And with that being said, I have no interest in Nick Castellanos and bringing him into the Cardinals.
I think he's really interesting. Like I've just always liked Nick Castellanos' profile as a hitter. He's super aggressive. He doesn't strike out a ton. He makes a lot of contact. Like, he's just the kind of hitter that I enjoy watching in Major League Baseball. but he hasn't been productive enough to make up for all of the faults of who he is as a player. And that's where it gets a little dicey for the Cardinals, is you really need him to hit well. And I just don't think he makes sense for where they're at as a team. Because if you're going this direction, you really have to commit to him as either your DH or your outfielder. If you're committing to him as your DH, that means fully committing. And I mean all in committing to Ivan Herrera as a catcher. There would be no scenario in which you could really move him away from that, because Castellanos is the kind of guy who you've got to have him in your lineup. We saw this a year ago with him on the Phillies. It wasn't that long. Dude, he had 600 plate appearances last year. But there would be a couple of games here and there where he'd be out of the lineup, and he got big mad about it. And that's what led to the friction between he and the manager. And I guess there was some kind of an argument there. Things were said, and it's so bad that there's like no coming back, right? This is an irreparable harm kind of a situation between he and the Phillies. And that's why they want to get rid of him. So that ain't great. He's got to play every day, and you have to commit to other guys in that scenario. Okay, so if he's going to be your DH, I've got to have Herrera as my everyday catcher. Okay, let's say he's going to be in the outfield. Okay, who's now missing playing time? Victor Scott is committed to the center field job. I would really like to see what Jordan Walker is this year. I kind of need him to play every day, and I'm not going to put him at DH. I need to find out, can he be an outfielder for me? I don't know that Nootbaar is going to be ready for opening day, but he actually is somebody that could have value at the deadline. So I'm not benching him in favor of Nick Castellanos. Okay, so Nick Castellanos has to be my DH. I don't see how this makes sense. I don't think it fits for what the Cardinals are looking for. I would just rather try Sajaci in this role.
Agreed.
If I'm going to go with a right-handed bat that can play in the outfield, play a little bit in the infield, maybe get some opportunities at DH, or pushes Gorman to be a DH, or pushes maybe a couple of days a week Walker to be a DH, whatever the case, Herrera, I would just rather have Sajaci in that role and see if he can become basically what Nick Castellanos was last year. Not what he was in his prime when he was a guy that was hitting 30 home runs and 100 ribbies. I don't think that's ever going to be what Sajaci is. But last year, Nick Castellanos hit 250 and had a 400 slugging percentage. Could Sajaci do that, where he was 10% below league average offensively? I think that's in play. Yeah. And in that case, you're paying $1 million to a guy that's already on your roster and has multiple years of club control and gets that opportunity to develop as a bat and in the outfield, as opposed to going out and making a trade for a guy who's terrible defensively, horrible as a base runner, might not be a great clubhouse presence, and has to play every single day, taking away those opportunities from your young guys. I don't see the fit.
Yeah, and to Sajaci's point too, like that versatility, like even if this is what his slash line would be, he probably is I'll take it what it is worth, but he would be a positive WAR player. He would probably be a 1 WAR player. Now, that's nothing great to write home about. That's better than being almost a -1 WAR. Like Sajaci, there would be just so much more value with him because of that versatility. I'm with you. I would rather have Sajaci in that right-handed bat role. And if they truly believe they need to go out and get somebody for the right-handed role, I would rather just have Randall Grichuk on a 1-year deal than going after and getting Castellanos for the cheap and throwing a lottery ticket prospect to the Phillies.
And I think it would be an entirely different story, too, if you were talking about a guy at this point in his career, 33 years of age or not, who's been mashing left-handed pitching.
Sure.
That is not the profile of Castellanos any longer. Last year, he received just as many at-bats as ever against lefties, right? 173. He managed to hit lower. He was worse against southpaws there at 243. And you referenced, obviously, BK, the incident from last July. He also, at that point in time, he had the second longest streak as far as games played. That was snapped. This is a guy who, at this point in time, doesn't appear willing to be, he's not accepting the notion of being anything other than still, you run out there, you go to post every single day. That is not the profile of what you have to have in that spot for this St. Louis Cardinals team.
I just don't. I don't really see who the fit is anymore on the free agent market other than Randall Grichuk. And that's not just because he's a former Cardinal. I promise you, I don't really care about that angle with this. It's just about, hey, finding a guy who makes sense for what they're lacking and what they're looking for currently. They need a guy who's willing to come in and just play a role. Just hit against lefties, be a platoon bat, and can capably play in the outfield. I think Grichuk can be that. Other than that, though, like Tommy Pham, I think still wants to be an everyday player. It's why he's been signing with a lot of bad teams lately, because he wants to be an everyday guy. I remember talking to him when he came here to St. Louis, and he specifically said, I'm not to the point in my career where I'm a platoon bat yet. I still think I can play every day. I'm better than other guys that are playing every day. So I don't get the sense that he's going to be somebody that comes in and plays that role. Manuel Margot has been terrible offensively for multiple seasons now and is over the age of 30. I don't think that really makes sense. We talked the other day about, as much as it's exciting and fun to talk about Andrew McCutchen, and I think he makes a lot of sense inside of the clubhouse. That's another one where at this point in his career, he is a designated hitter.
Yeah.
He did not play the outfield really last year for Pittsburgh. So you would, again, have to 100% be committed to Ivan Herrera as a catcher. And maybe they are. Maybe they just don't care what it looks like defensively from him. But if you think there's a chance that you get into the second month of the season and you're no longer committed to that, and you think Herrera could eventually either kick out to the outfield or play DH most of the time for space, whatever the case, you cannot sign somebody that clogs up that designated hitter role, because that has to be a spot that you can get regular at-bats for Ivan Herrera at some point this year. So it goes back to, like, man, we really are talking about Randall Grichuk and, I guess, Austin Slater.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't good last year.
No, those are the only two outfielders that are still available on the market. Otherwise, I think this is going to have to come via trade.
Yeah.
I think it's the kind of thing that you get midway through spring training. Teams are assessing their roster, where they're at. Maybe they're looking at, okay, we thought this guy maybe fit into our plans, but instead we're going to have to send him down to AAA. Is there a trade that makes sense for us? Does somebody else have a pitcher that fits what we want and we can send them this right-handed bat? The Cardinals might be the kind of team that has those assets available to them that can make a baseball swap, the way that you typically see in the NHL where it's the hockey trades, defenseman for forward, Bolduc for Mayu kind of thing. Maybe that's the kind of scenario that presents itself for the Cardinals, because I just don't see these older guys really fitting into what their plans are this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. It feels like it's going to be a late spring training move when they eventually do it. It's why, like, I think the next couple Sundays, Heim's going to have the same answer to that question, because I think you're right. I think it's a guy that's a player that a team thought was going to be on their bench, gets beat out maybe by a young guy, and they have to move on from, or it's a guy that's run out of options, and they have to move on from. So you send them like a lottery ticket, or if they need like bullpen help, for example, maybe you send one of the guys you're going to send down as part of your Memphis shuttle, you swap him for a right-handed bat.
So somebody on the text line said, guys, Miguel Andujar was the perfect fit. We could have had him and then traded him at the deadline. That was a miss for the Cardinals. I think Miguel Andujar was the perfect fit. Here's the problem. He may have viewed himself as trying to make it as an everyday player. And if that's how he viewed himself, I don't think the Cardinals can offer that right now. I don't think the Cardinals can go into this offseason and promise anybody you will get everyday opportunities when Lars Nootbaar is healthy. Because you're probably going to have Burley, Gorman, and Wetherholt at first, second, and third.
Yeah.
You're going to have Mason Wynn at short. You're going to have Newt, Herrera, Walker as three of the players that will fill the left field, DH, and right field spots. Then you look at catcher, Herrera could maybe be there. You've got Sajacy who could fit into this somewhere. I just don't think there are everyday at-bats anywhere for any of these right-handed bats that you're potentially looking at. If you're him and you were looking for a spot where you could get that, I don't think the Cardinals could offer it because of their plans this year, because they're trying to go young. If you were trying to improve the roster and you're maximizing every spot possible, he makes all the sense in the world. And now you could sell it to him and say, hey, you come into camp, you win the job, it's yours. But given where the Cardinals are at, it doesn't matter what he did in spring training. They're going to have Jordan Walker playing over him. Mm-hmm. They're going to have Alec Burleson and Nolan Gorman and JJ Wetherholt and Lars Nootbaar, when healthy, playing over him, because these are guys that they need to see, not just for the here and now, but also for the future, potentially.
Yeah, and if you're Miguel Andujar, and maybe the Cardinals even were offering that, San Diego you want to go to now because they're more of a contender than the Cardinals. Like they're going against two big things that are hard to sell to free agents. One, we can't guarantee playing time, and two, even if we could guarantee playing time, PECOTA says we're going to win 66 games this year.
Exactly.
Like, I would rather go to San Diego where they're projected to be more of a contender than that.
Alongside T-Bone and Bradford, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In 15 minutes, the way too early NFL draft rankings are a reminder of what Mizzou has to replace next year on the defensive side of the ball. We'll let you hear where some of their defenders were ranked in this top 100 list in about 15 minutes. Better to forget it next year on 101 ESPN.
It's time for another moment in Blues Blues history.
On this day back in 1996, the Blues would put 6 up on the Dallas Stars. A shorthanded goal by Jeff Courtnall got the scoring started. Then Chris Pronger and Krister Olsson would all score in the second period. Dallas would score early in the third, but then Brett Hall, Krister Olsson, and Jeff Courtnall all scoring again in the third period.
This date in Blues history is powered by Classic Air Care.
Make your life more comfortable for all your HVAC, plumbing, and electrical needs. ClassicAirCare.com.
ESPN has your shot to score a pair of passes to the 2026 State Farm Missouri Valley Conference Men's Basketball Tournament, hitting the court at Enterprise Center March 5th through the 8th. March begins here with the Arch Madness of the annual MVC Tournament, featuring an 11-team field. All session and single session tickets are on sale now.
Get all the details and enter to win free tickets for Arch Madness, now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 app.
They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Vegas sets them up, and we're here to make the call. It's BK and Ferrario's Bet It or Forget It on 101 ESPN.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. If you guys have a scenario, we will tell you if we are betting it or forgetting it here on 101 ESPN. Just saw this. Stu Durando on his Substack tweeted the following. Josh Schertz's future is a popular topic on social media these days. His long-term vision for SLU hinges on the investment that the university is willing to make. Quote, programs can decide who they want to be, end quote. Bet it or forget it, Josh Schertz will remain the head coach at SLU University next year.
I lean forget it. I still believe he might cash in. And what I mean by that is take this season, realize that, as he said earlier in the season, it's hard to go, whatever it was, 6 for 6 in the transfer portal, and they went 6 for 6. It's kind of run you got to have if you're going to be a sustained powerhouse at SLU. I think he's going to cash in and take a job elsewhere, one that opens up. I think he will leave. And I think it'll be for a bigger program that can invest more into the basketball program. That's not a shot at SLU. I think they've got the money that would be necessary. I just think he's going to view this as I need to cash in on my opportunity.
Tanner, I concur. And again, this is not due to the fact that you feel as if maybe even you'll have this influx of options out there for Josh Schertz, but in so many different respects. This is not a one-off, but it feels like that would-be signature season, okay? You have this last ride, albeit at SLU with Avila. You have all of the chips lining up perfectly for you to make a deep, sustained run, not just in the A-10 tournament, but the whole NCAA tournament there. With this cast basically departing, you're going to have an entirely different look next season, and I get it. We go from year to year like that along campuses everywhere. But it does feel as if this is the moment for Josh Schertz, and provided that you enjoy any semblance of success in the postseason, that star only rises.
I'm with you guys. I would say forget it. I do not think he will be back next year. I think it'd be great if he is.
Agreed.
If he could build at SLU what VCU had, what Butler had, what Marquette has been for most of the last really 20 years.
Didn't
Xavier.
Dayton go on this a little bit?
Dayton had a little bit of a ride.
Wasn't as sustained as those other ones.
But yeah, there's been some prominent programs that have had sustained success at a similar kind of a level. St. John's has had some of this as well. You can do this. Gonzaga has built their program into what it is with one coach for 25 years.
You would have said Creighton a few years ago, right?
Absolutely.
McDermott?
Sure.
No doubt. You can be a consistent NCAA tournament team that gets to Sweet 16s, all of that at a program like SLU. He's going to have to make that decision this offseason, though, and cash in while the chance is there for you. It's typically the advice that I would give, and I think he probably will. T-Bone?
Guys, bet it or forget it. The Cardinals will have more 20 home run hitters than the Blues have 20 goal scorers.
Bet it. All they need, I think, is like 2, and I think they'll get it. I think Herrera will be a 20 home run hitter this year. I think Burleson will be a 20 home run hitter this year, and I think you've got a few other guys that can. Gorman, if he stays healthy, I think will be, and maybe you end up with a surprise somewhere else. So I'll say bet it.
I'm betting it as well. At least 2. Yeah, huge bar to clear there, right? And I'm still holding out for, we talked about earlier here in the show briefly some of the videos maybe pertaining to Victor Scott II. Tanner, before the show, we had a nice still image as well of, that guy, Jordan Walker, too. Let's hope, right? Come on, let's hope. Let's get optimistic.
I wouldn't count on
here.
him getting to 20 home runs, but I would bet it that they will beat the Blues in this category, if not tie them at a minimum. I agree with what BK said. I think Herrera, Burley, they're probably your 2 20 home run guys that you should expect that from. And then it just comes down to, is it Gorman? Is there a surprise in there? I will bet this. I think they will have more than the Blues have 20 goal scorers.
Naturally, guys, I'm going to take it to the gridiron because yesterday there was one segment in the show, the gift that just kept on giving. So I'm going to extend it a little bit into today as well. Drake May actually spoke today at Gillette Stadium. It was the Patriots' final meeting of the season, we understand. And he confirmed that off-season surgery will not be required on that right shoulder. Now, New England had a top 3 offense, yardage-wise, in the regular season this year. Next year, Drake May once again positions them in the top 5. The Patriots are a top 5 offense in 2K6. Bet it or forget it.
Forget it. I don't think they have the personnel.
I agree. I would forget it as well. They would need a huge overhaul on the offensive side of the ball to do this. Like if they go out and they acquire A.J. Brown, they go out and they sign another good, solid secondary piece to help them out as well on the offense, then maybe I'd be willing to bet it, but I'm with BK right now. I would forget this. I don't think they can repeat what they did, especially when the schedule gets harder next year for them in theory.
I'm going to forget it as well. I think that you'll be hanging on the fringes, on the periphery, and that's provided that you have everything essentially going your way, against a markedly more difficult schedule. Quickly, though, bet it or forget it, Jared Goff has his team as a top 3 offensive unit.
Forget it.
I would forget that as well. Yeah. I think we saw with the Lions, it was Ben Johnson, and their weapons are getting older now.
And their offensive line. Their offensive line is a disaster.
Yeah, huge.
It was terrible last year along the interior, and that's not an easy thing to just snap your fingers and it's good again, especially when you draft middle to late portion of the round. From the 636, guys, bet it or forget it. You guys should have Rob Cerfolio join the show again to talk about the prospects the Cardinals have acquired in trades this year before the start of the season. Bet it. I would absolutely love to get Rob Cerfolio on. That was actually something on my to-do list whenever I return from vacation, to potentially reach out to he and the Cardinals. All right, let's get to this from the 314. Guys, I saw news the other day that NBC is going to have Clayton Kershaw, Joey Votto, and Anthony Rizzo as a part of their baseball coverage. Bet it or forget it, by the end of the year, we will view NBC as the best national coverage for Major League Baseball.
Oh, that's interesting. I will bet that. I think that has got the makings of a potential very good cast of characters, because Votto's a good personality. Rizzo is a pretty good personality. Mm-hmm. Kershaw, I think, will be better now that he's not in the mindset of being a starting pitcher. I would bet this, and to be fair, I don't know who else has the other personalities you're looking for. I think MLB Network Radio is fine. MLB Network is fine. I think that one has the potential to be the best of the group, though.
Turner's good. Fox is good. Fox has really good stuff.
See, I'm not a fan of the Fox, big pregame, big postgame group of Ortiz, Rodriguez, and Jeter.
Yeah.
I think they're all just meh. I have no interest in them.
I enjoy them, but I mean, Derek Jeter does nothing for me. I like Big Papi, if nothing else.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Those 3 guys, despite the clout, those are good additions, no doubt. You're not going to actually be hearing much from them prior to the postseason. Isn't that right? As far as the
NBC?
Agreement goes, yes.
No, they're on Sunday Night Baseball.
Yeah.
Are they? Okay,
they take
regularly.
over the game of the world.
All right, so this isn't a Michael Jordan-esque situation. You get a check.
No.
Okay, just check.
That was ridiculous. I can't believe the way that was presented compared to what it actually has become. He did one interview. He sat down for one interview, and they were like, yeah, we got Michael Jordan on the pregame shows.
Whoa.
Well, I mean, he did talk to you once, which is a good get. He doesn't really talk, but not a whole lot. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. Guys, bet it or forget it, the Cardinals will lose fewer than 90 games this season. So I guess framing it a different way, bet it or forget it, the Cardinals will win at least 73.
I will bet it. I don't think they're as bad as PECOTA laid them out to be. I can see where PECOTA comes from, though, because I do think it is in their range of outcomes. But I would lean more towards they're in the 72 to 75-ish win range. I would bet this. I don't think that they're as bad as what PECOTA laid it out to be.
Agreed.
I'll bet it as well, because so often we talk about that muddy middle, right? When you talk about the National League Central, until proven otherwise, I still think that is a considerable array there of teams that are basically all in line with one another. Possible exception being Chicago, but prove it to me as well. Milwaukee, primed to maybe take a bit of a step back, but is Cincinnati, is Pittsburgh, are those teams really ready to step forward? I think not.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to dive into the junk drawer, but next, the way too early NFL draft rankings are a reminder of just how much Mizzou will need to replace on the defensive side of the ball. Are they going to be able to do it? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Tune in next week as the Morning After broadcast live from Cardinals spring training in Jupiter, Florida. Tim, Doug, Martin, and Jackson will be talking with players, coaches, and reporting on all the news from Roger Dean Stadium. Don't miss TMA Live from spring training all next week. Brought to you by Healthcare Evolution. Nagging injury? In pain? Real answers and same-day pain relief at healthcare-evolution.com.
Hey, it's BK. The NFL season is over, but that doesn't mean that all of the action is over on the Underdog app. No, it is only heating up right now, whether it's college basketball, NBA, or the Olympics that you'd like to get in on the action for. You can do exactly that right now over on the Underdog app. I opened up my app earlier today. I had a 40% hockey boost available for me, and you know what that means? I'm going over to the Olympics, and I like Team USA. I've got Brady Tkachuk going higher on his goals. I've got Matthew Tkachuk going higher on his goals as well. Give me the two St. Louis and the Tkachuk brothers, each scoring a goal in the first game for Team USA in the Olympics. I'm also going to take, as you would probably expect, Girgensons to score a goal against Team USA, because you got to have one from both sides of things. Put all that together, it's 20-1 odds over on the Underdog app. If you want to get on the action again, NBA, college basketball, Olympics, it's all available for you right now. Download the Underdog app today. Use the promo code BKO. You'll score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BKO. Underdog. Make plays, win money. Must be 18 or older, present in Missouri. Terms to apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms. _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Text us anytime at 314-399-9646 on the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation text line on 101 ESPN. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
SLU moves up one spot. Good afternoon. It's Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The latest AP Top 25 men's poll finds St. Louis University at number 18. On Saturday, Josh Schertz's group improved to 23-1, walloping LaSalle 82-58. Those Billikens next meet Loyola Chicago February 13th. Tonight, 8th-ranked Illinois will host Wisconsin. About 14 hours ago, Kansas defeated previously unbeaten Arizona 82-78 without freshman sensation Darren Peterson. This Sports Center update was presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
I love this time of the year. I'm an NFL draft nerd. I'm more than happy to admit as much. It's fantastic. And if you are a fan of an NFL team that was no good, this is the season when you can sell hope. There's optimism. Anybody could be the next Seattle Seahawks. Just look at what they did over their last 4 or 5 drafts. You could be that next.
Yeah. It's not that hard.
That's what this time of the year is all about. But it's also about the college football side of things, where you get to see your favorite players go into the league and realize their dreams. And for Missouri, that means seeing a few of their front 7 players on the defensive side of the ball potentially being selected in the first 3 rounds. In the way too early NFL Draft Top 100 rankings, according to Dane Brugler over at The Athletic, Zion Young, the Missouri defensive end, came in at number 39 overall. Josiah Trotter, their middle linebacker from a year ago, who unfortunately for me as a Missouri fan that enjoyed watching him, and unfortunately for the Tigers, who enjoyed watching him tackle everybody, he has declared for the NFL draft as a redshirt sophomore. He is ranked 66th overall in this rankings. They also have another defensive tackle in the top 100, Chris McClellan, their former interior rusher, penetrator. He's at 95 on this list. In other words, 3 of Missouri's front 7 players from last year that they have to replace, along with Damon Wilson, who decided to transfer. So 4 of your front 7 players that are NFL draft pedigree type of prospects, you have to replace all of them. And they are ranked 3 in the top 95 in this year's NFL draft, according to Dane Brugler. And 1 would have been ranked in the top 95 had he decided to declare, but instead he's heading to Miami. T-Bone, what do you make of this? Hey, do you think that Missouri is going to be able to replace these guys capably enough to where the defense doesn't look like a shell of itself in 2026?
I don't think so. It's not my expectation. It's hard to replace 4 guys that would be NFL caliber players in the top 100 of a draft. On that side of the football, at a school like Missouri, and that's no shot towards Missouri. This isn't Alabama. This isn't LSU. This isn't Miami, where you're constantly having 5-stars, some that sit in the wings, and then when you do go to the transfer portal, you are able to go out and recruit the best of the transfer portal, like Miami did this time around. So I'm skeptical that they can replace all 4 of them. Can they replace 1 or 2 of them? I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't doubt that they'd be able to at least replace 1 or 2 of these guys and get good production there. But to get this high of production from 4 of the 7 down linemen that you lost, yeah, I don't see that coming from Missouri. And it's why we talked about we had the conversation a couple of months ago, why there's so much pressure on Austin Simmons to really lift this offense up, because I expect the defense to come down a little bit. Now you need the offense to kind of pick up that production that's going to be lost on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think inevitably you had this defensive unit. It was primed to take a step back this coming season. Despite all the trust, the confidence I frankly do have, and I think it's rightfully so, when it comes to the DC, Corey Batoon, he's going to have his hands full when it comes to generating the same amount or a comparable amount of pressure up front, okay? When you're talking about not only a Zion Young, but certainly the depth that you lost. I honestly, BK, thought it would be maybe even a bit worse, because I wasn't even entirely sure if Darius Smith would stay for another season. You have a couple of holdovers. Langdon Kitchen was definitely part of that rotation as well moving forward. To me, somebody in whom I actually do place quite a bit of trust here. Watch out for somebody, Eli Drinkwitz and the coaching staff. They are bullish on this young man, DeMarcus Johnson, as the number 2 JUCO recruit on the defensive side. He is going to be on that line as well. But having said all of that, you are definitely banking on a couple of additions from Miami pretty late in the transfer portal, depth pieces like a Simpson, like a Malik Bryant, and CJ May as well from Louisville. It's going to boil down to what these transfer portal additions give you, making sure that you hit on at least 2 of these guys, because I don't automatically think, even though I like the upside, obviously, of somebody like a Darius Smith, that he just steps in as your ready-made individual, your foremost edge threat. It's going to be a process. But by the same token, BK, I think you can point to the second level of this defense and certainly the secondary and say, arguably, maybe you have a little more confidence in those 2 positional groups than you did from the prior class last fall.
Yeah, I mean, you better, because your secondary was terrible last year.
Yes,
that was their biggest issue. I don't see a scenario in which your defensive line is anywhere close to as good as it was last year. They wrecked games. The reason that Missouri was as good as it was defensively last year, with the liability that was the pass coverage, was because their defensive line was able to win these games for them. And that's just not going to be there this year. You're not going to have 3 guys getting drafted in the top 100 next year. It's almost completely unrealistic. We knew going into last season this was likely. We knew Damon Wilson was a legitimate NFL draft prospect. We knew that Zion Young was a legitimate NFL draft prospect. The hype was there for Josiah Trotter, who was somebody that people were very high on and had just come from the Big 12, where he was, I believe, the Big 12 freshman of the year the previous season. So none of that was really a surprise. Missouri would need a surprise this year for it to be anywhere close to as good as it was last year. They also don't need the defense to be as good as it was last year if the offense takes a step.
Yep.
And that's the big storyline to me here is, all right, you have this sliding scale. Your defense has to be elite if your offense stinks the way that it did for most of last season, because you didn't have good quarterback play. If you get it right with Austin Simmons, that can counteract what you're missing right now on the defensive line. So it sounds strange to say your Zion Young, your Damon Wilson replacement is actually the quarterback. But it's true, because that's where you're going to have to be able to pull your weight more than you did a year ago. Against Vandy, you got to score more than 10 points. Against Texas A&M, you got to score more than 17. Against Oklahoma, you got to score more than 6. If you can do that, and Austin Simmons is the reason why, you're going to be just fine. But that defense, I don't think, is going to be able to hold Oklahoma to 17 or Vandy to 17 this year, or Alabama to 27 the way that they did a year ago, where that was pretty incredible work, all things considered, with the way that your offense performed for about half of that game. So it's just going to put more pressure on the offense to be a hell of a lot better than it was last
And
year.
that's why you're seeing kind of, I don't know if it's fair to call it this, but kind of the all-in on the hiring on the offensive side of the ball, right? They hire the new OC. They bring in, who am I drawing a blank on? They brought in from Clemson. Garrett Riley, thank you. As a guy that's going to kind of help oversee the offense as well. Like, those were big moves on the offensive side of the ball. And that wasn't just a overreaction because the offense wasn't bad or was bad last year. That was part of it, but it was also because of what we're talking about here on the defensive side of the ball. Eli Drinkwitz knows we're going to have to make up for it probably on the offensive side of the ball because we cannot replace all these guys up front.
So speaking of these NFL draft rankings, just kind of looking at this draft big picture, because that's where a lot of the attention is going to turn now that the Super Bowl has been played. Over the next 2+ months, it will be draft season for most fan bases across the NFL. I think Dane Brugler does excellent work over at The Athletic. In his top 5 prospects, he has 2 off-ball linebackers, a safety, and a running back.
Oh.
Now, the outlier there is Fernando Mendoza, who is his 2nd overall player, who's probably going to go number 1 overall to the Las Vegas Raiders. So you've got a quarterback in there. That's a premium position. That's the kind of thing that you would typically expect to see up at this high. Over the next 2 months, you will hear a lot of, this is not a good draft class. That will be something that you hear repeatedly about this year's draft. I don't know how true that is. I think what it really is it's not a great class for premium positions. There aren't a ton of blue chip corners or blue chip defensive ends or blue chip offensive tackles. And when you don't have those positions pushed up to the top of the board, it feels like it's lacking in that premium talent because teams rarely select off-ball linebackers or safeties or running backs in the top 10. And I just mentioned that's 4 of your top 5 players, according to Dane Brugler. Well, when that happens, it feels like it's not a great draft, even if those guys are going to be superstars because of the lack of positional value that you have there. Top paid running backs in the NFL are making like $13 million a year.
Yeah.
Receiver, 30 plus. Top paid safeties in the NFL are making like $18 million. Top paid corners, $30 million. Top paid off-ball linebackers are like $15 to $18 million. You look instead at like, I don't know, edge rushers, $30 million. You're just not getting the same bang for your buck by drafting these guys. Because when you draft them at the top of the board, you're paying $10 million a year. So you're basically expecting, if you draft Jeremiah Love in the top 5, you are expecting him to immediately come in and be a top 5 NFL running back. Otherwise, you're overpaying for what he's bringing to you service-wise. If you draft Caleb Downs in the top 10, he needs to immediately be a top 5 safety in the NFL. Otherwise, you're overpaying for what he is. Meanwhile, if you draft a defensive end, like, for example, the guy that we saw dominate in the playoff this year with Ruben Bain Jr., if you draft him in the top 10, you pay him $7 million a year, and he's awesome, well, you're getting $20 million in surplus value because normally for that kind of production, you're paying top of the market, and it's $30 million a year. So even if he's average, well, that's what you'd pay an average defensive end. Go look at this year's free agent class. Draymond Jones, a guy that most of our listeners right now have never heard of. He's a guy that gets 5 to 7 sacks a year. He's probably going to get in that $10 million range.
I think that's what like Davion Clowney at this point in his career gets.
Exactly. So would you rather have that guy or Ruben Bain, who's young and cost-controlled and could have even more upside than that? That's why there's so much value in those premium positions, and that's why over the next month or two, you're going to hear a lot of, this is not a good draft class, because the premium positions aren't at the top of the class.
Yeah, and it's what's going to make it interesting. We all know who's going number 1. We all know it's going to be Mendoza. But once you get into that like 2 to 5, 2 to 7 range, it's going to be interesting to see what these teams do because they're probably going to look at this and like Ruben Bain, for example, is listed as the 9th best overall prospect. I wouldn't doubt if he shoots up in the rankings higher into that draft because of the fact of what you're talking about. It's better for a team to maybe take that risk on shooting for him to where, worst case scenario, if Bain does end up becoming just an average player or an average defensive end, okay, fine. He ended up being what we would pay like a Davion Clowney for that role, but you shoot for that upside. That's typically what you see happen in these drafts that end up where there isn't as much premier talent up at the top, is these guys that are in that like 10 to 15 prospect range, or really I'd say 7 to 15 prospect range. when they're at the premier positions, they really leapfrog up above the outside linebackers because these teams would rather just take that risk than do what you're talking about, where they basically draft a Love, for example, and say, well, he's already got to be a top 5 running back in the league for us to get the value out of him.
That being said, though, that's why I find him to be such a fascinating case study here, because he might immediately be a top 5 running back in the NFL. And if I'm deciding between overdrafting one of these corners or edge rushers or tackles, or taking a linebacker or taking a safety, do I just take the running back who's going to touch the ball 20 times a game and say, hey, this guy could change the outlook of our team? I don't know. I think that would be kind of a silly way to go about it for a lot of these teams that are drafting at or near the top of the draft. But like, if you're Tennessee, which of those things impacts your roster the most? Could you convince yourself, hey, the best thing for Cam Ward as I look across the NFL and the way that the game is being played right now is to improve our running game and to get this guy that's super explosive in the backfield and put him next to a guy like Cam Ward? I could at least listen to that argument. If you're Washington and you look around the league and you say, all right, this is the way that the league is going, we need to take some pressure off of Jaden Daniels. And with the number 7 overall selection, maybe we should go defense because our defense stinks. We're actually going to take the running back. The Chiefs, you could say that at number 9 overall. There are just a lot of those 3 or 4 teams in the top 10, I think could make some sense for Jordan Love or for Jeremiah Love. I don't think I can make the case for the Jets. I couldn't make that case for like Cleveland. For some of these teams, I do think that's going to be a real conversation that they have to have internally of what makes more sense for us? Where is this value? And could it actually be a scenario where running back makes more sense because of the draft class and because of what's around him?
And we're not obviously comparing apples to apples. We're talking about offenses versus defense. But by the same token, you have so much more on film, on tape for a Jeremiah Love. And even, for example, as much as you want to put stock in somebody like an Arvell Reese, who obviously has skyrocketed up so many of those boards.
And he's one of those outside linebackers from Ohio State.
Exactly. At the same time, he was more of a bit presence as recently as a season ago. He was kind of lost in the shuffle as far as you had that Jack Sawyer and Caleb Downs-led unit. He was fantastic. He has all of this room for growth. But can you sit here and say he is a surefire bet at number 2, at number 5, number 7? Absolutely not.
Yeah, he's a fun player. He's an interesting player, but I have some real questions about him as a pass rusher, considering in the second half of the season he had 0 sacks.
So you're saying not the top prospect?
I don't know, man. That makes me pretty concerned. He had 1 tackle for loss after week 8.
Abdul Carter vibes, maybe? Production-wise.
I guess that's what you're hoping for.
Yeah, and I don't think they had a tough schedule in the second half, if I'm not mistaken. Now, they would have when they got to the playoff. But
against the following teams, he had 0 tackles for loss. UCLA, Rutgers, Michigan, Indiana, Miami.
Yeah, okay.
0.
Yeah, a couple of those were not. Those were some cupcakes there.
Yeah, so that is the guy that is currently at number 1
right.
on the draft
board. Ready for the draft, everybody.
Abdul Carter, though, had 23.5 tackles for loss for his final year at Penn State. So
I remember him being a stud.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Coming up next, Junk Drawer here on 101 ESPN.
Saturday, it's All-Star Saturday night. Coverage starts at 4. Your home for the NBA is 101 ESPN.
Hey, it's BK, and it is time for you to unlock your inner champion. The place to do so is with my friends over at Victory Men's Health. Check them out today. They have 4 great locations across the St. Louis area, and you can see all that they have to offer online at victorymenshealth.com. BKinForRario.com. When you get over there, you can read about what they can do for erectile dysfunction. Maybe you're feeling some of those low testosterone symptoms. Could be fatigue. Maybe you're not getting the same amount out of your workouts as you once did. You just don't have that same energy. That could be due to low testosterone, and they can check out where your levels are at when you book that first appointment online today at victorymenshealth.com. It's a super easy process. Click in the top right corner of the page, Book Now tab, put in your name, email, phone number, tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and then tell them what it means for you to unlock your inner champion. When I went in, that meant getting my micronutrient levels checked, finding out where I'm at with all of these different things, and they can personalize a plan for me. Whatever it means for you, they can unlock your inner champion today at Victory Men's Health and online at victorymenshealth.com.
We're right back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Let's open it up. The junk drawer with BK and Ferrario.
Alongside T-Bone and Bradford on BK, time for the junk drawer. I leave tonight for Disney World.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Luca has been avoiding his naps lately, so that's been fun. Hung out with him yesterday. We went on a drive to try to get the nap going after I went when we get down to Disney World. We fly tonight starting at 7 o'clock, land at 10. No clue what that's going to be like for him. His bedtime is typically right in the middle of that. But we have the time change, so it'll be like 9 o'clock our time, 10 o'clock their time. That's roughly when he goes to sleep. Chances are pretty high he's going to be awake for the whole flight down to Disney World. So that's going to be great. And then we have nearly a week in Disney where we get to experience for the first time what he's like in this huge crowd with rides that we have no idea if he's going to enjoy or not. And there's a roughly 87% chance that he's scared of the characters.
Yeah.
It's going to go great.
Yeah, what could go wrong for your trip to Disney?
Is there a go-to character, though, onto which he can latch?
Super into
all right.
Mickey Mouse.
Boom.
Very
boom.
excited
That's
about that.
our first character, then, I think.
Yep.
There you go.
If we can.
Set the tone.
He's very excited to meet Mickey. He's excited to meet Minnie, and he's excited to meet Moana. Beyond that, said he doesn't want to meet Goofy because he's silly. So we'll see how that one goes. Seems to be a little afraid in general of people in the costumes. Like we went to the Blues game again. This was a couple of months ago. And it was the mascot game. It was Louis' birthday.
There.
So there were like 4 different mascots were there. Super into it until they came close. And then he was no longer into it.
Right.
So the autograph book, apparently we're getting one. I think that's going to be either me or Kara that are getting a lot of those autographs.
Good luck with that. I think he'll be fine. I think you start with Mickey first. I think you're going to be good. You just don't start with Mickey first. We might have a problem. We'll see. But that's going to be a blast to have him down there at Disney World. What's the part you're maybe most looking forward to?
I'm a
characters
sucker.
don't sound.
I know. I'm a softie. The show on the castle at night is my favorite thing at Disney World. I know it's like so cliche, but it's amazing. And so for me to be able to see him watch that, if he likes it, who knows? He might
If he
hate
doesn't
it.
like it, it's not going to be a great memory.
That's what I'm most looking forward to. My wife is a Disney adult. She loves going to Disney World. Like, it's her thing. You can make fun of it. That's fine. It's her thing. And so we go annually as her birthday trip. She bought into DVC very early, coming out of college. So now we have basically a timeshare down at Disney World where we go down there every winter. And so we have what is normally our trip, which includes a lot of eating and a lot of drinking. That's a lot of what we do when we go down there.
That sounds like my kind of trip.
Exactly. It's great. This is going to be a extremely different trip. And we're both prepared for that. So I'm kind of excited to see what it's going to look like.
Are you guys doing any, I don't know if they still do this. I assume they would because I remember when I went growing up. Are you doing any breakfast with the characters, dinner with the characters?
Yeah, so we're going to do a breakfast. I think we're doing 2 different character meals. I think we're going to, we're definitely doing Chef Mickey's classic, the one at Contemporary. And we're going to do one other. I can't remember which specific one that we booked, but we've got 2 different character breakfasts that we're going to go to, and Mickey will be at both of those. So he'll like seeing Mickey from afar, if nothing else. I will report back on how this all goes.
I can't wait for a text in 24 hours. Guys saw our first character. Wasn't Mickey, was a disaster. First text in the group chat, probably.
It sounds as if you need to stay with the classic characters. Maybe not mix in as many of the Disney Pixar new wave guys. I don't know. I'm just
Somebody
saying.
on the text line said, BK, don't you love paying for an extra seat on the plane for a 2-year-old? It's one of the things that I'll just never understand. I mean, I get it. They've got to make their money, whatever. The fact that Luca, who could easily sit on me or Kara's lap on this plane ride, we have to buy a seat for him and pay $350 plus round trip just to go is crazy to me. But whatever. What are you going to do? It is what it is. We decided to book it, and so we are very excited.
You didn't want to do what my family would do, drive down to Disney World?
No.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That was awful growing up.
Not with him. Once he gets older, maybe we'll consider doing that. But right now,
do the fly.
I can't imagine going on a 16-hour drive in the car with a 2-year-old toddler. No chance. No chance would I ever consider it. One of the people, so we're going with Kara's whole family. One of them is driving down, but couldn't be me.
No, I'm with you. I hated it. I went 3 times growing up. I think it was 3 times. And my mom's terrified of flying, so we drove every time. Oh, brutal.
I've driven down there before. I don't mind driving in general. It's not the worst thing in the world. We've a couple of years ago, we drove out to the Smoky Mountains. That's a pretty decent drive as well. Not quite as long as Disney World, don't get me wrong. But I drove to Houston when I had an internship down there. When I was younger, we did a drive up to through Wyoming and down to Denver and then back to Kansas City. It's I've done some driving in my day. Don't get me wrong. With a 2-year-old? No, sir. Not a chance in hell. Coming up next, does it matter where JJ Wetherholt hits in the Cardinals opening day lineup? We'll get into that here on BK and Ferrario.
WXOS HD1 East St. Louis 101 ESPN is driven by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. Sports betting meets reckless optimism, questionable logic, and the occasional stroke of genius. With hosts Anthony Stalter, Tim McKernan, and Scott Rizzuto. Check out the latest from the Spread Zone at 101ESPN.com or the 101 mobile app. The Spread Zone is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. This is exactly where you want to be listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Big news in Major League Baseball. This is the time of the year where you get all your medical reports and suddenly guys show up and they've got an injury that fans didn't know about for the last 4 months. And now you're potentially going to be without your best player to start out the opening of the regular season. That is not the case yet for the Cardinals, and fingers crossed it won't be. But for the New York Mets, they have announced that Francisco Lindor is expected to be examined tomorrow for a stress reaction in his left hamate bone. This is not the thing that you want to hear for a potential power hitter. Might need surgery. It comes with a potential 6-week recovery if it is needed, and might, quote unquote, might be ready for opening day. Typically, when you see something like this, T-Bone, and you get surgery on a hamate bone right before the start of spring training, not only is it 6 weeks recovery to get back to baseball activities, but also when they come back, a lot of the time you don't expect them to be the same player that we were before.
Yeah.
That's not good news for the New York Mets, especially for a team that I look at their lineup. It's decent. It's pretty good. They need him to have a borderline MVP caliber season in order for that offense to be what it needs to be a real contender.
Yeah, anytime you deal with those injuries that are in the hand, wrist area, and then in the feet as well for hitters, that's the one that is very concerning for me, and especially when it starts to deal in that wrist area. You really see guys sapped of power when they come back from that. And for Lindor, we'll see. My guess is he's not going to be ready for opening day, because if I'm the Mets, I would play that extremely slow, because he's going to need that ramp-up period to build up and just get that eye back, his batter's eye back. My guess is they will put him on the IL to start the year, and he will be going on a rehab assignment basically when the year starts.
Yeah, it's not the kind of injury that you want to hear about at this point in the season. It's a good thing they signed Bo Bichette, because at least you've got a natural replacement for third base. You can put, I would guess, Vientos just slots right back in as your third baseman. So it's Soto, Bichette, Polanco, Simeon, and Vientos.
Ugh.
It's not great, man.
This is why I said about the Mets a couple weeks ago when they signed Bichette. I just have not liked their offseason. I don't think the offense is very good. I think
it's okay if you have Francisco Lindor back to what Francisco Lindor has been, but if you don't have that, if you pull that out, well, now it starts to look like a lot of these other lineups across the National League that are extremely top-heavy but lack the balance that you need.
Yeah, their lineup is not what it was, and this is why it was interesting to see them make the pivot from Pete Alonso, right? I would have just brought back Pete Alonso, looking at the market, or gone after Tucker, right? You go out and sign Kyle Tucker. I get what their goal was. It was to be better defensively, but Tucker was the best bat on the market, and would have, even if you plucked out Lindor now, you still have Soto and Kyle Tucker to lead the charge. Now that lineup is it's just meh, I would call it. It's fine.
So the Cardinals, their big storyline heading into camp is JJ Wetherholt. Let's be real. He's the number one storyline, and there's really nothing that's close as a second. He's probably going to make the opening day roster. He's probably going to be in the opening day lineup. That would be my assumption. I think they cleared the deck for that to be the case. It's kind of like Jordan Walker a few years ago, where he went into camp and we're all like, is he going to be able to make it? He's going to make it. He's going to make it. And then it was very clear at the end, like, oh, they planned for this. Yeah, he's going to be your starting right fielder on opening day. Over on MLB.com, they put together each team's projected opening day lineup. And for the Cardinals, they had the following lineup. Batting leadoff, a guy that I'm not sure is going to be ready for opening day, Lars Nootbaar. And then 2 to 5, Wynn, Burleson, Herrera, Gorman. Walker in right, batting 6th. JJ Wetherholt at second base, hitting 7th. And then Pages behind the plate, Victor Scott the second in center field. So they had JJ Wetherholt batting 7th on opening day. T-Bone, how much, if at all, do you care where JJ Wetherholt is in the lineup on opening day? Or do you just care that he's part of it?
I just care he's part of it. I don't really care where he's hitting in this lineup, because typically what we've seen with Ollie Marmol in the past, when the team was kind of in the winning window / kind of winning, not winning runway season, he would have a guy start off to where it was where Wetherholt, a rookie, would hit 7th. Did this with Jordan Walker. Let him get his feet wet, get comfortable at the big leagues, and then if he starts playing well, then he'd be willing to bump him up into the lineup, like the 2 spot or the 5 spot, whatever it may be, hell, even lead off for this team. I don't really care this year because everybody's kind of hitting out of position this season. Because when you look at this projected lineup, MLB.com had Mason Wynn's not a 2-hole hitter. If you're on a really good team and you're competing for something, Mason Wynn is hitting in the bottom half of your order. He's somewhere in that 7 to 9 spot. He's not in the top half of your lineup. Heck, Alec Burleson's probably more of a 5-hole hitter, not a 3-hole hitter. Herrera's probably not a cleanup hitter on a contending lineup. So I don't really care where he hits in the batting order. I don't care if it's leadoff. I don't care if it's 9th. I don't care if it's 2nd. I just want him getting everyday reps at second base, and every day that when the lineup comes out, I see that his name is in it somewhere.
I want them to put him wherever they think he's going to be long term. Just get comfortable there. If they think he is a long-term 2-hole hitter, put him there. If they think he's the answer as their leadoff hitter, cool. Put him leadoff every day. That's fine. And then tell him, listen, this is not on you. We want you to go out there, be yourself, and hit the way that you always would if you were batting at this spot in the order. Don't get comfortable batting 7th. That's not where you're going to be long term. You're probably never going to spend more than a couple of weeks batting in the bottom half of the order if you're as good as we all expect you to be. So for this team, you're one of our best hitters, and we're going to treat you accordingly. We're going to put you in the top 3 or 4. And I think that's where you're going to be for the rest of your career. So let's get going. I think if you were trying to contend this year, this is the spot where I would expect him to be. Hey, ease him in. Don't put that pressure on him on a team that is expecting to get to the playoffs where he's trying to contribute toward winning every single day. That's asking too much. This team knows what it is, man. They're not surprised by the direction that the organization is going. They're not surprised that there's a bunch of young guys in the lineup that probably won't be able to get to the playoffs this year. None of them are going to be taken aback by that. So I would just set it and forget it. Let's see what it looks like. If you think he's a 2-hole hitter, put him in the 2-hole. If you think he's a 5-hole hitter, put him in the 5-hole. I don't care where that is. I just care that they commit to it and they say this is what it's going to be long term. And I would say the same thing's true for like Mason Wynn. If you view Mason Wynn as your long-term answer at leadoff hitter, go ahead and put him there. If you think Alec Burleson long-term is going to be 3 to 5 with Herrera, put him in those spots. That's personally for me the direction that I would like to see this lineup go to.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me either way. If you think Wetherholt's a 2-hole hitter long term, I'm fine with hitting him in the 2 spot for the entire season. What I care about is he's just making sure that he gets the 600 plate appearances that belong to him, right? Same for Mason Wynn, same for Alec Burleson. Hell, Jordan Walker. If Jordan Walker's going to have even just an average season, long as he's in the lineup and he's getting 600 plate appearances, I don't really care. Long as you just, my whole point on the set it and forget it is just make sure these guys are locked into the lineup for 5 or 6 out of the 7 days in a week.
Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to get to, speaking of MLB.com, they put out a projection. It's projections week in Major League Baseball. They've got JJ Wetherholt tied for the 3rd best projection of any rookies this season. Number 1 is the Japanese third baseman that signed with the Blue Jays,
That's
Akamoto.
not fair. He's already been pro.
Number 2, Trey Yasevich, who is the right-handed pitcher for the Blue Jays, who also spent some time last year with the Blue Jays. Beyond that, it's JJ Wetherholt and a guy, Chase De La Tour, for the Cleveland Guardians. They're tied for the 3rd best projection. They have him projected this year for a 255 average, 340 on base, and a 392 slugging percentage with 10 home runs over 105 games in the majors. Now, I would anticipate, health permitting, he's going to play more than that at the major league level. If you're looking for, okay, who was a player that had a similar kind of stat line a year ago to what we're talking about here with somebody like a JJ Wetherholt, it's not the easiest thing to find. There aren't a whole lot of players that profile that way, but it's kind of similar to like what you got out of Wilson Contreras, but with less power. Another guy that you could compare it to is like a William Contreras, actually. William Contreras last year hit 260, got on base 35% of the time, and slugged 400. So that's probably the closest similarity. TJ Friedl is kind of up there as well. Guy for Cincinnati. How would you feel if that's the season that we get this year out of JJ Wetherholt, T-Bone?
I think I'd be a little disappointed with that number, but I kind of expect he's going to struggle. The one that I'm having like that on base, I'm fine with. What'd you say, 340? 250 batting average. I think that's when he gets to being comfortable at the major leagues, he's going to be better than a 250 hitter, I believe. So it wouldn't shock me if he's lower than that this year. So 250, I would expect. I think the power is going to be a little bit higher. I don't know if he's going to slug below 400 this season. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think he's going to be more than like 15 home runs. I think doubles is where he's going to be living off of. I think that year would be a little disappointing, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did that.
What do you think of J.P. Crawford as a player?
I think he's fine. I think he's in the perfect role that he's in with Seattle as a good complementary piece that's about like 10% above league average.
How would you feel if that's the kind of profile that JJ Wetherholt becomes? I think he has a little more stolen base upside than what JP Crawford has been in his major league career, but you're talking most years like 15 to 20 home runs, hits about 260 most of the time, gets on base 34% of the time, and pop leaves a little something to be desired. I think JJ has more doubles power, probably. It's the hope, at least. But how would you feel about that as a profile of a player?
I think if that's what he ultimately becomes, that would be disappointing. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's only 3% above league average in his career, and the Cardinals are kind of circling him as the guy that's supposed to be the superstar that is the homegrown superstar that ends the rebuild. That would be disappointing for me. I don't think I'm not convinced he's capable of becoming a superstar, but he better become a very good player. And that's no shot towards Crawford. Crawford is fine. That is not what you want JJ Wetherholt to become.
Yeah. I think for this season, it'd be fine. If you're telling me as a 23-year-old rookie, he hits almost 260, gets on base 34% of the time, hits like 15 home runs over a 162-game schedule as opposed to 10 and 105, I feel okay about that. Now, I would hope that he could be more than that long term, but that's basically Brendan Donovan. And Brendan Donovan's a really good player. And if I get that in year one of transitioning to the major league level, it's pretty hard for me to be upset with us saying, hey, he can be Brendan Donovan year one. That's a hell of an outcome, man. And then you dream on what the upside is there. And you hope that he can add more in this stolen base game. Like, hey, could he have that plus 20 stolen bases this year, plus above average defense to good defense at second base? That's the making of a potential all-star. I mean, we saw the second base rankings earlier this week. Mm-hmm. If he puts this kind of a season together, he's a top 5 second baseman in Major League Baseball at the end of this year. That's not to suggest that he's like a superstar, but it just speaks to there's not a whole lot of great second basemen. That would be up there among the best and most productive second basemen in the game the first year that he's playing the position at the major league level. That's pretty good.
Because like Jackson Holliday was in the top 10. I think he was 9.
Correct.
And Holliday was 242, 314, 375, 5% below league average. Like, it's not going to take a lot to move into that top 10, to your point there. Like, if he does have a Brendan Donovan-esque season, yeah, he'll be a top 5 second baseman potentially in the game by the time we get there. I'm not expecting that. I think he's going to have his struggles in year one, but it's definitely in the range of outcomes for him.
It's like Jake Cronenworth, and Jake Cronenworth was a top 10 second baseman in Major League Baseball, according to a lot of those projections. So, I think he'd be totally fine with that kind of first year. You'd hope that it's more, but first year, I'm good with it. Coming up next, biggest story in college basketball last night was a projected top 5 pick just sitting out of the biggest game of the season for Kansas. We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
One more Blues talk? Check out the Last Minute Blues podcast with Alex Ferrario, Donnie Fandango, and Jeremy Rutherford on 101 ESPN. The guys bring you the latest news and nuggets on your St. Louis Blues.
The Last Minute Blues podcast is presented by Blue Note Roofing. Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for free inspection. Watch or listen to the Last Minute Blues podcast now on our YouTube channel or at 101 101ESPN.com.
ESPN has your shot to score a 4-pack of tickets to Monster Energy AMA Supercross, returning to the Dome at America's Center Saturday, April 4th. Watch the premier riders in the world as well as the rising stars as they put it all on the line for the coveted title of Supercross Champion. Experience the intense racing of the world's most demanding sport live at Monster Energy AMA Supercross.
Get all the info and register to win a free 4-pack of tickets now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 app.
They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
We got a trade. The St. Louis Cardinals are sending Andre Granillo to the Washington Nationals. In return, they are getting a right-handed pitcher, George Soriano. He is 26 years old. He spent most of his career in the Marlins organization, has thrown 118 career big league innings, to the tune of a 6 ERA. So the results have not been there for him thus far. He walks the world. He also has pretty good swing and miss stuff, though. So a trade for the Cardinals, a very minor trade, sending Andre Granillo to the Nationals for a different, slightly older, slightly more experienced major league relief arm. Any thoughts, T-Bone?
It's interesting. I mean, this guy looks like he's got some decent stuff when looking at what his strikeout numbers are now. He walks the world. So it's at least a project to take on. I'm a little surprised that they partnered with Granillo to go get him, because Andre Granillo was a guy that I thought they liked internally. I don't know why they didn't just put a claim on him, but at least he's an intriguing arm that they can go out and add to the mix of arms that's on the 40-man that can be on that Memphis shuttle.
Let me make sure on this. Let me see if he has options before we say he's going to be a part of the Memphis shuttle.
Oh, that is a good point.
Because I think it's possible he's out of options. Let's see here.
Well, if that's the case, this is definitely a weird pickup then, in my opinion.
George Soriano out of options. So he will be a part of the Major League bullpen this year. He was claimed off of waivers in January by the Nationals.
And the Nationals didn't even get to spring training and said goodbye on our rebuilding team. I'm surprised they would kind of lock. I guess they don't have to lock him into a spot because they can try and get him through waivers.
They're throwing numbers at it.
Yeah, I am a little surprised, though, that they would go this route then and not just stick with Granillo then at this point. I guess because there's more upside with his stuff would be my guess.
Yep. I think that's what they're saying. I think they're saying we want a bigger fastball coming out of the bullpen because we think there's more value in that. And honestly, maybe more importantly, baseball shows there's more value in that. So if you get to the deadline and this guy is throwing 96, 97 miles an hour coming out of the bullpen with swing and miss stuff, and it's worked because sometimes it just turns on for guys coming out of the bullpen, he might have some value for you. I'm fine with it.
The funny thing is, and they may think they can maybe work with his fastball. His fastball was his least thrown pitch last year. When you look at his arsenal, slider, changeup, sinker, four-seamer is what he has worked with. He's thrown the slider and changeup more than the sinker and four-seam. So I wonder if this is, and we talked about this on the latest Redbird report, they clearly have a type that they really like when they're targeting pitchers.
It's literally this.
It's this.
Slider, four-seam, and changeup.
Exactly. And I think that they may have seen when he got put on waivers again this time around, rather than waiting through the waivers process, they may have looked at this and said, let's go get him because we think we can work with, whether it's the sinker or the four-seamer. My guess would be the four-seamer. We think we can work with that pitch and tie that into his slider and make him a more effective pitcher.
The irony is he and Andre Granillo are basically the same pitcher. they throw the same stuff. It comes out of a similar slot. They are extremely similar in terms of what they throw and where it ends up. Now, I should have said, the arm angle is slightly different, where Granillo is coming at it from like a 3/4 arm. It's a little bit more sidearm action from Soriano. But yeah, this is the kind of move that they're throwing numbers at the bullpen, seeing what sticks. And I think you're going to see Riley O'Brien, JoJo Romero, Matt Swanson, Ryan Stanek. Those guys I think are locks to be in your bullpen. I'd be a little surprised at this point if Gordon Graceffo isn't also a part of that. I don't think there's anything left for him to prove at the AAA level. So there's 5 pitchers coming out of your bullpen. To start out the season, I think you're probably going to have 7. I think they'll probably go 6 starters, 7 bullpen arms. So you've got 2 spots that remain for the Rule 5 guy, Matt Pusher, that they took. Ryan Fernandez, who still has some options, could be sent down to the minor league level. That's probably the way they go. It's the path of least resistance. They also have Justin Brule, who they got from the Guardians. They got him in January. They sent like cash considerations, I think, to them. But he's also out of options. So those guys, plus a few of the other players that are down in the minor league system, that's kind of what you're looking at for your bullpen on opening day potentially. But the Cardinals have made a move. They've sent Andre Granillo to the Washington Nationals and get right-handed pitcher George Soriano in return.
This is going to be our thumbnail for the show post today.
I would assume so. You guys want to hear a story from the Olympics that just dropped?
Yeah, you've teased this to me, and I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's titillating, all right.
There's a Norwegian biathlete who won the bronze medal. Then, in his post-race interview, started out by thanking everybody who helped him get to the path of his Olympic medal, and then unprompted said the following: "There's someone that I want to share it with who might not be watching today. 6 months ago, I met the love of my life, the most beautiful and kindest person in the world. 3 months ago, I made the biggest mistake and cheated on her, and I told her about it a week ago. It's been the worst week of my life." He said this while crying in the interview. "Maybe I'm just stupid. I'm a member of the sorority, but I do stupid things." He said he has regretted it since the day that he cheated. He realized that this is the woman in his life, can't live without her. The only goal is to tell everything, put it out on the table, and hope that she can still love me. I've done that for her, and now for the whole world. I have nothing left to lose.
Boy, this sounds like something from a romance movie.
Said, I'm not ready to give up. I'm hoping that by committing social suicide, I might show her how much I love her. I'm taking the consequences for what I've done. I regret it with all of my heart.
Yikes.
Can you imagine winning a gold medal, or excuse me, a bronze medal, and taking your post-race moment, something that you've been working your entire life for, to say, I just need to tell you all, I cheated on the woman of my dreams.
I want to get her back.
I did this 3 months ago. I told her 1 week ago. For 3 months, I lived with it. Just walked around as if nothing happened. And then the week before the Olympics, I decided now is the time where I need to reveal this to the woman of my dreams. And she leaves me. And then as I get a bronze medal, I'm going to tell the world about all of this that I had to do.
Well, when you lock yourself in for training, you really lock it in for training.
What a time
Apparently.
to be alive. NFL Quick Hitters next here on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley, St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
On this season of Stupiracy, the podcast where stupidity and conspiracy collide, Riz and I take on a theory so ridiculous, you'll swear the internet has finally lost it. The claim? Helen Keller was a fraud. 14 books, 12 U.S. presidents, a global icon, and TikTok says it was all fake. So is this what happens when people get their history lessons from social media? Or is there something they don't want you to see? Stupiracy Season 2 is out now, starting with the Helen Keller conspiracy. Listen wherever you get your podcast or watch on YouTube.
Stupiracy, presented by CarStar, your auto body repair experts. Locally owned with a nationwide guarantee. Visit carstar.com.
listen to 101 ESPN on demand. Get caught up on all our shows and podcasts at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 mobile app. 101 ESPN podcasts are presented by the Schaefer Door Company. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Cardinals swing deal. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Minutes ago, St. Louis confirmed having traded reliever Andre Granillo to Washington for fellow righty George Soriano. The latter made 24 big league appearances in 2025. College Hoops, Brad Underwood's Illinois crew hosting Wisconsin tonight at 7 o'clock. Right now, women's hockey prelims concluding with U.S., Canada, America up 1-0 through 15 minutes of action. On Thursday, Team USA's NHL contingent will open that Olympic campaign against Latvia. This Sports Center update was presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Alongside T-Bone and Bradford, I'm BK. Some news to pass along for Major League Baseball. Sounds like one of the right-handed bats that was remaining on the board, an outfielder, has signed with the Tigers. Who'd you say it is?
Austin Slater signing with the Tigers.
Oh, boy. All right, so there's one left. It's Randall Grichuk. More likely, probably going to have to make a trade. So that's the update on the Cardinals and where things stand with their quest for a right-handed hitter.
Maybe we'll use this Soriano guy to go get somebody.
So as we go through some NFL quick hitters, Adam Schefter was on with Pat McAfee's show yesterday. McAfee now taking a 2-week absence as there's nothing going on in the NFL world.
Come on, Pat.
Adam Schefter said there's going to be a push by at least one team this offseason to extend the NFL trade limits from 3 years of picks to 5 years of picks. Now, for those unfamiliar with what he's talking about, you can only trade 3 years down the road in the NFL. In the NBA, I think you can do it for 27 years down the road.
I think it's 7,
yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
But you can't do like consecutive years in the NBA. It's like, okay, this year you can do your pick. The next year you can do a swap, and then you can continue doing it from there. In the NFL, you can only trade 3 years down the line picks to mortgage your future for the here and now. He's saying there's a team that would like to push that limit to 5. Would you be in favor of this?
I would not. I like it being condensed on how far you can go into the future with your draft picks. Also, if we're being honest, I'm not sure many teams, I don't think it would matter. I don't think many teams would be trading 4 or 5 years down the road because how many teams are going to want that? We see this in the NHL. They can only do 3 years. I think that's right, 3 years of picks. And a lot of teams typically don't even take the following year in the draft. They all want it in the upcoming draft. So I'm not sure it would really matter. I would like to just see it stay as condensed as possible, keep it at 3 years reach. We all agree, though, it was probably the Rams that wanted the 5 years, right? So they had more F them picks to move on from.
Probably the Browns.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could see that too. But yeah, no, I'm not in favor of doing this.
I wouldn't be either, and the reason why is for fans. Because when you allow for this, it can put you into such a hole. I mentioned the Browns. Think about how much of a hole the Browns have been in because of cap implications, because of the Deshaun Watson contract.
Yeah.
Now imagine you have a GM that's fighting for his life. And he knows if we don't win this year, we're all getting fired. Look at what the Falcons did last year. They knew if they didn't win last year, they're all getting fired. And so the GM got crazy and decided to send this year's first-round pick for James Pierce. Well, James Pierce had huge character concerns. He's now been arrested. We have no idea if he's ever going to play football again. Their first-round selection went to the Rams. It's now what, in the top 10 this year? Top 15 this year?
Top 15.
And the Falcons don't have that first-round pick, and they also don't have a quarterback that has a healthy knee. So good luck. Falcons are screwed. That's for 1 year. Now imagine if you have these GMs that are out there doing that for multiple seasons into the future. I don't think it's a good idea at all. I would be completely against this.
And I think like looking at the NBA, for example, where it's either 5 or 7. I think it's 7 as far back as they can go. Look at the Nets when they made the KG trade with Paul Pierce. I think they gave up a handful of first-round picks, and they were stuck for a while there before they were finally able to get out of it. But that's the kind of situation that you're talking about where a GM would get desperate and make that kind of a move. Yeah, I would just much rather keep this at 3. And it's easier for fans when it's at 3 as well.
From the 618, guys, if they did this, maybe a Lamar or a Burrow would become available. That is the one scenario that I could see presenting itself where teams that feel as though they're stuck could have almost a get-out-of-jail-free card where you could then make the cap hit work for you if you're the Ravens or the Bengals and you say, you know what, forget it, we're just going to restart. We are going to reset our cap. This year's going to hurt, but we got 4 first-round picks in this deal for the next 4 seasons. Let's go ahead and make it. That's the one scenario where I could see it actually making sense for a team on both sides of the aisle, but I just keep it at 3. 3 is fine. You almost never see these kinds of deals with multiple first-round picks into the future anyways, so I don't think there's really any need to make this kind of a move. Did want to mention one other thing. I saw the piece from The Ringer putting together the top storylines heading into this offseason. There were a bunch of them. One of them was like, hey, the Seahawks are primed for multi-season contention with the way that their cap is set up. Are the Patriots? The answer's probably no. They also asked, are the top quarterbacks going to be able to get back up to the mountaintop? And I think the answer's probably yes for me on that one. They also mentioned the Eagles, T-Bone, and said the Eagles look like a team that's primed for a reset this offseason. They go into the offseason with about $20 million in cap space. That's fine. They're not hurting, but they're also a team that, like, they have a lot of cap tied up into future years as well. They use these void years where guys are off of the roster and then they're going to have to pay for it down the road. There's real consideration this offseason to, hey, do they consider trading an A.J. Brown, for example? How do you view the Eagles going into this offseason? What do you expect them to do?
I think they're going to trade A.J. Brown. I don't know how you come back with him after he was... It's kind of weird to say that he was a... problem for the Eagles, but just weird stuff would come from him, right? Where he's like tweeting out after the game, or I guess it wasn't tweet, it was like on, I think it was like Twitch or something. He'd be like playing Madden in the video game, and he'd be like targeting himself, going, "This is why we're not winning as Eagles. I'm not getting the football enough." And he'd have all these weird moments that were behind the scenes, and then reporters would ask him what's going on. Oh, we're not throwing the football enough. Like, okay, sure, honesty, maybe not the best policy though for A.J. Brown. I think they move on from him. I don't know that they view that is a relationship that they can fix. So I bet they trade A.J. Brown, and then I don't know what they do from there because Devontae Smith is a good wide receiver. You can't have him be your true number 1 if you're going to be a contending team. Now, maybe they just try to get back to what their identity was 2 years ago when it was, hey, it's Saquon Barkley. Get him the ball. That offensive line, when we were right, it wasn't throwing the football. It was Barkley ran for 2,000 yards. It was an MVP candidate. I think they're going to try and get back into that, but I do expect they're going to trade A.J. Brown this offseason.
I'll be very curious to see what they do there because he, if you trade him, accounts for $43 million against the cap. If you keep him, it's $23 million. So it's $20 extra million to trade him this year than it would be just to have him on your roster. If I'm them, I say, AJ, figure it out, man. I know you're not happy. I don't care. You're too good and you're too expensive for us to get rid of you. Because I don't think anybody's sending a first-round pick at this point for AJ Brown.
Probably not.
Not now.
So you're taking on $20 extra million to get a second-round pick for AJ? I'd just rather have AJ Brown on my roster. So
I was curious.
I think they're going to have to run it back this year once again, probably have bad results, and then in 2027, that's the season where we see them flip things over.
Would they fire everybody, too, in that case? Like, with Sirianni's out, if they end up just... Because that's the other thing for me is, like, Sirianni's had a disappointing offseason. It took him forever to find his answer for offensive coordinator, and they did hire one out, right? It happened during the Super Bowl, I think.
Former Rams great Sean Mannion, is not.
He's the guy that they moved on from their offensive line coach in part because of.
Yeah,
Sean
that's
Mannion.
right. I forgot. It was someone that was a surprise, I would say at best. So, I don't know. They're fast. I think you move on from A.J. Brown. I get it, what you're saying about is he worth just a second-round pick for it cost us $20 more million. I think he may have been part of their problem last year.
Maybe. Maybe. I think they had a lot of issues on that side of the football. All right, this Friday morning, help us heat up St. Louis during the 26th annual Hardee's Rise and Shine fundraiser. Stop by any participating Hardee's in the bi-state area on Friday morning. You can grab a sausage biscuit or an egg biscuit for just $1. 100% of the proceeds of all funds collected will then help heat up St. Louis, supporting people in need on both the Missouri and Illinois side of the state line. That's Friday morning at any participating Hardee's. All of the information can be found at 101ESPN.com. Coming up next, we'll finish out the show with the Rewind here on BK and Ferrario.
College basketball is on ESPN Saturday. Florida and Kentucky tip off at 2. Your home for the NCAA is 101 ESPN. We're right back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Let's Let's run it back with a daily rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Lou, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
Hey, alongside T-Bone and Bradford, I'm BK. Just saw this event that they're doing at the Olympics today. Guy won a race by sprinting up a mountain on skis for a mile. Did so in 6 minutes.
What?
Go outside today. Go downhill for a mile if you could find a 1 mile hill.
Yeah.
See how fast you can get down that mile. Odds are it's not 6 minutes. Now imagine doing that uphill on skis and getting done with a mile in 6 minutes. A truly unbelievable feat. This is what your parents are telling you about whenever they say they're going uphill both ways to school whenever they were kids. Hey, tune in all next week as TMA will be broadcasting live from the Cardinals spring training down in Jupiter. Don't miss TMA live from spring training every day next week. It's all brought to you by Healthcare Evolution. I will be gone the rest of this week. I'll be back in next week because we got content next week, and we will be back talking Cardinals baseball
Aren't you gonna
with me
miss
and T-Bone.
the lack of content for the next 3 days?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be
It's
really
tough
hard to
build
miss
a
it.
rundown today, if
Yeah,
we're
it was
being
fun.
honest.
It was fun. We figured out a way to do it. We made it work. Had a lot of breaking news throughout the day.
Bradford.
It's good.
Tanner, you're going to appreciate those Mizzou tangents. Trust me, you will. You will.
In 4 years at the next Winter Olympics, will you remind me to take some vacation time during it? I'm not going to enjoy this.
Let me write that down. Okay.
It'll be fine. You guys will have a great show over the next few days. I will, in the meantime, be down in Disney World with a 2-year-old.
70 degrees?
I think it's like 75 every day this week. It's gonna be
perfect.
It's going to be really great when we get down there. Yeah, right now, 77. Rest of the week, 75, 74, 75, 78, 80.
We get at least one day here. It's, I think 60 out right now here.
Yeah, it's
which is
62
nice.
currently.
Yeah.
Now tomorrow,
I'm in Disney World.
Tomorrow it'll get back down to 49.
Oh, then I won't feel that way.
But it's going to be in the 50s most of the next week or so. So you guys be A-okay. It's not that bad. It's not like a few weeks ago when it was like 10 for 10 days in a row. So, yeah, you guys will be A-okay. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out at the podcast page, 101ESPN.com. And the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
That 101 ESPN app, super easy to use. It is free to download. It is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. You can always check us out on YouTube as well. That's where you can go back and rewatch the entirety of the show, both from today and just in general. You can watch the Redbird Report over there, the Last Minute Blues podcast. It's all available for you at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. Final thing here, you can join Alex Ferrario and Mick Ultra this Saturday from 1:30 to 3:30 at Ballpark Village, FanDuel Sports Live. Cheer on Team USA during the Winter Games and get signed up for your chance to score a signed USA men's hockey jersey. How about that? Plus, brand ambassadors will be sampling Mick Ultra, and they'll be giving away other Team USA items as well. It's all happening Saturday from 1:30 to 3:30 with Mick Ultra and Alex Ferrario at FanDuel Sports Live inside of Ballpark Village. All the details available at 101ESPN.com. For Tanner Hendrickson and Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. I will be back next week. T-Bone and Alex and Bradford have you the rest of this week. Stay safe out there. We'll talk to you soon here on 101 ESPN.
Boy.
This Friday morning, 101 ESPN invites you to participate in the 26th annual Hardee's Rise and Shine fundraiser. Stop by any participating Hardee's in the bi-state area this Friday morning and grab a sausage biscuit or egg biscuit for the special price of just $1. 100% of the proceeds of all funds collected will help heat up St. Louis, supporting people in need in both Missouri and Illinois. Help heat up the St. Louis region this Friday morning at any participating